Welcome to the odds.com Tuesday opening lines show with my man Rob Bebeneck and the great cappers in the chat. We are here to break down each and every one of these games on the card and another winning week for Bebsy. Man, what a start to your season. You go 4-2 plus 1.55 units. Now 17-6. You're hitting 73.9% plus 9.88 units. ROI of 42.96%. Average line minus 114. Bebsy, the good times keep on rolling.
Not a bad start. It's really just that Rams game that screwed me this week. I hate that I doubled up and was so wrong on that game. What happened with the Rams? I don't know. They just looked flat. They came out hot, and then all of a sudden they just shut her down, and then it cost me a 6-0 week. It really did. I hate the Rams. I hate the Rams so much right now. But another good week. We're in the plus column.
You are.
I already see that people are upset about the way I speak about Tom Brady. And,
yeah,
I was going to come in and say nice things this week, but you asked for it.
All right. I was not so glorious. I also doubled up on the Rams there. It wasn't even the double up, really. It was how juiced that first half was, because we got that 6.5, and it was so heavily juiced. So that hurt us as well. Although we were one, last-second field goal from actually cashing that first half win. I went 4-5, down 1.7 units. I'm 16-17, 48.5%, down 2.95 units. ROI minus 8.94%, average line minus 111. I don't like it, but I'm ready to rock this week. Shout out to all the cappers in the chat. We got Dan Kelly in the house. Buzznuts 721. Dan Kelly ready to rock. Mr. Fun Monk, the best kept secret on YouTube. Very kind. Very, very, very kind. Damon Santori ready to eat, ready to work here. Got a great, great group. Ready to cap together to defeat the Juice. There's Viper NB in the house. Michael Hunter, Tuesday night special. There's Dylan Turner, Turnsy, ready to go. Overtime, Bill McHugh. Thank you guys all for joining us. Steel Curtain, Birdie in the house. Birdie, man, he's the most consistent thing in my life right now is my man Birdie coming to us live from Kingston, Ontario. Cash Action Bets. Ready to go. Steel Curtain having a nice year. I love seeing that. All righty. Lots of work to do. Clint Richardson, Mayfer, Rude Jude, Gerald Jones. And Dan Kelly says, are the COVIDiots allowing water over Niagara Falls? Yeah, there's still water over the falls. But it is not the same without the casinos open. But still, it was a nice little 36-hour jaunt. I'm excited.
The water is lessening, though. They're only allowing a little bit of water through at a time. It's really quite a spectacle. You got to see it. Make your way to Niagara Falls before it goes back to normal.
Not as much. All right. We've got a ton of work to do. We got great cappers in the chat. Let's get over it right now and start making moves. We're going to start with the Thursday nighter. Buccaneers at Bears. I was hoping, probably Bebsy was hoping that there might be some wind issues, some Chicago fall weather. No, gorgeous night in Chicago coming up. This total is sitting at 45, and it's dropping quickly. We have 43s on the board, 43s on the leading indicator books. It's 43.5s or 44s, but you can tell this is dropping. Tampa Bay opens up at -6. They're now 5.5s on the board and 4.5s on the board. After beating the Chargers 38-31, the Bucs have won 3 straight. Brady 30 for 46, 369 yards, 5 touchdowns to help the Bucs rally from a 17-point deficit. It was extremely impressive. I was listening to the game on the radio on my drive down, and I just the main thing for me, and we'll get into it. We'll get into it when we talk about the Chargers. I'm not going to go off on it now, but Lynn giving the ball to a rookie who's already had one giant costly fumble this year at the 9-yard line with 47 seconds left, I think, and the Bucs with only one timeout left. You don't deserve to coach in the NFL. And we've seen Bill O'Brien get fired, and dominoes are going to start falling. And Lynn just, as a Madden player, I know not to give the ball back to a very dangerous quarterback when I could go into the locker room up 24/7. It was just appalling. But Brady will punish you when you make mistakes, and that's what he did. 5 different players caught TD passes: Miller, Evans, Howard, Brait, and Keyshawn Vaughn. Mike Evans goes 7 catches for 122 yards, but the Bucs are banged up. So Scotty Miller, hip groin; Chris Godwin, hamstring; Mike Evans, ankle, even though he's playing through it; Justin Watson, chest. None of them practiced today, and they're all questionable. Today being Tuesday. O.J. Howard done for the year with the Achilles injury. Leonard Fournette will be a game-time decision. LaShawn McCoy is week to week. Defensive end Willie Golston and JPP are questionable. So this is a beat-up Buccaneers squad. The Bears coming off a very disappointing 19-11 loss at home to the Colts. I was on them. It made me extremely angry. Bears managed 269 yards of offense, only 28 on the ground. They were getting penalized. Foles was not doing much because this, as we talk about the Colts, and again, we'll wait till we talk about the Colts, but they're able to get a pass rush with 4 guys, so they have 7 back in the secondary, and you can't beat them. Colts did that without Darius Leonard. Ugh. So Khalil Mack is questionable. I expect him to be able to go. Sherrick McManus, their safety, is questionable. And Deion Bush, safety, left with a hamstring injury. He's questionable, but unlikely. I've heard Deion Bush unlikely. Take it away, Bebsy. Thursday nighter. You're running hot this year at 17-6, and you have stayed off the Thursday nighters so far. We've all noticed it. Maybe you make a move this week. Buccaneers, Bears.
Look, the obvious pick here is the Bucs. The Bears have looked bad. Nick Foles was supposed to come in and be the savior. He wasn't. I look, it's home team or no team, right? On Thursday, that's what we say, home team or no team. So I'm going with no team because I do believe the Bucs are going to win. I see this total or this spread dropping. I understand why there's money coming in on Chicago. I just don't like it. The only thing I'm worried about with the Bucs as far as winning this game is, like you mentioned, the injuries. There are so many guys out right now. They're starting to look like the 49ers in that the depth chart is almost unrecognizable. If Evans doesn't play and Godwin doesn't play, then they're out. Fournette, Evans, Godwin, McCoy, O.J. Howard's done for the year. I think they're going to be fine and still roll into Chicago on a short week, but that is a tough game for them. Short week on the road with most of your weapons out. They're down to Gronkowski and Brait. So, and Jones, and Ronald Jones looked terrible last week, dropping passes. So, look, logic dictates jump on Tampa, but the situation dictates staying off this game.
Yeah.
And look, I wanted to get excited about Foles. I did. I was talking about Big Dick Nick all last week, but I stayed off him because, look, Foles had a magical Super Bowl run and otherwise has been mediocre to bad in his entire NFL career. I want to get behind him just because I like bragging about Big Dick Nick because I don't have one myself, so I got to get on him about it, but we don't. We know what he is. He's an average to below average quarterback. So everything says Tampa, short week on the road, ton of injuries.
Steel Curtain says, I think it was Steel Curtain said, how do you feel about buying points? And I think that you should go with the rule that you never buy points. You only sell points. Sell points, get a plus line. If you're buying points, you're obviously in a weak spot. And I don't always live by that rule, but it makes a ton of sense. Here, Buccaneers, Bears, this Buccaneers defense was shredded by Herbert and the Chargers. This total's going down on a beautiful night in Chicago. Birdie says we have to look under here. Do we have to look under here? What are you thinking of this total that's dropping? So this total opens up at 45. You can now get it at 43.
As I often am, I'm in agreement with Birdie on this one. You got to figure Chicago just struggles to put up points, period. And everything I just said about Tampa, short players on the road, short week, This screams over. I can understand why it's being bet down early.
I mean, everything we've seen other than the late games is we're at a record scoring pace so far this year. Drunken Boxing like in the under. Dylan Turner like in the under. Look, Herbert and the Chargers walked through this team. Well, why wouldn't Foles be able to put up some okay numbers against the Bucs? I mean,
Because
what do you think?
Foles is worse than Herbert right now. Herbert, look, he's impressed me week after week so far. Week one, again, I hate to beat a dead horse here, but we said the best thing about Herbert was starting without knowing he's starting. Then we both said, he's going to regress week 2. He still played well. He played well week 3. The kid looks good.
The kid looks good. And we'll get to the Chargers here. They're not on a bye this week. They're in action. I think the Bears are an interesting look. But if you want the Bears, the Sharps have come in and bet the Bears. And you're going to have to wait until the public comes in and bets the Bucs. So if you want the Bears, which I may do, I'm going to have to wait till Thursday night even, and watch the public and see what I can get, see if the Sixers come back on the board. And if they don't, then I'll be concerned. And how is this? So if the Buccaneers put up 27 points, you're saying that I need 17 from the Bears to hit the over? I'm not entirely sure why this under is being hammered. I mean, can you give me a breakdown, if you were an under better, what you're looking at this or how you're looking at this? Because this Bears defense is not looking like the Bears defense of old. And the top 5 defenses of last year are all getting punished. They're all looking bad. What do you think of this Bears defense, and give me a reason why, even though you're not doing it, why you would bet the under in this game?
Well, it has everything to do with what I said initially. The Bears struggle to put up points, period, and they have, regardless of their opponents. And Tampa is on a short week, and again, they could potentially be missing Evans. Godwin is probably out for another week. O.J. Howard is done for the season. Fournette is probably still out. There's just too many weapons down. Now, the O-line, as far as I know, is healthy. Tom Brady is healthy. That makes a huge, huge difference. But there's my reasoning for possibly betting the under here. There's so many players out, and it's a short week, and they're on the road. So everything suggests that they should struggle a little bit.
Birdie says, I only say under because of the injuries. And the Bears D seems to be relatively healthy, and I like those Bucs D, so that's why I lean it.
There's no way that Khalil Mack's not playing. So they're going to pump him full of whatever drugs they need to get him out there. He's going to swing by the Oval Office and grab some of that Regeneron that Trump's drinking to stay alive right now, and he's going to get into that game, and he's going to play. So not so injured on the Bears side, a little bit more injured on the Bucs side. Again, I'm not playing it. You asked for a reason why I would be on the under. There's why I'm on the under.
Well, I don't know. I feel like a layman. I feel like a simpleton looking at this total being too low for a Buccaneers game. And I mean, when we're watching these Bucs play, it's score for score. And Brady can move the offense to nobody's, and he's going to air it out regardless, which will open up the opportunities for pick sixes. Now, again, this is a bias. I was listening just to the Bucs Chargers game on my drive-in, and it just seemed like it was just point after point after point after point. If you want the Bears, wait for the public to get involved, which I might do. But 43 points for a Buccaneers game, Almac says 44 is too low. Try 43. I mean, the over 44, which is plus lines. You're getting a plus line at over 44. Wow. All right.
It's going to be 38-28. Almac, that's a bit high, don't you think?
Is it? Have you watched this Bucs? These guys, their defense looks dicey. The Colts are the best defensive team in the league. And I know you could say who have they played, which is legitimate. All right.
Yeah, they have not really faced a potent offense yet.
God, I'm sitting 16 and 17 on the year. What am I going to do? Go up against the market move and the sharps on the Thursday over? I want to.
I think Thursdays are messy games in a regular year, and this year it's even worse. Like I hate Thursday night football. I want them to cancel it. I really do. I hate it for the players. I hate it for the fans. Whenever your favorite team plays on Thursday, it's a nightmare because you're wondering who's going to get hurt on short rests. Thursday night football sucks. It's got to go. I might not play a Thursday night football game all year. I might not bet one.
The way you've been handling the season has been extremely impressive. So,
the pressure's on though now. It's letdown week for old Bebsy.
There is your Thursday nighter. God, I mean, Super Tom is going to be in Chicago, and he's going to be able to call out every audible he wants. It's going to be no noise. Are you kidding me? I mean, and what this total's at 43 at the indicated books?
He is a top 15 quarterback all time. I will give you that.
Okay. Look, I want the over here. I want the over. And I don't need the Bears. And you know what? Maybe
I'm with Dylan Turner. Whatever picks I make, I'm going to change the day of.
Maybe that's the Tampa Bay Bucks team totals at 24.5.
Honestly, like logic suggests that you should just take the bets, and I'm probably or the Bucks here, and I'm probably overthinking it, but I just don't like the traveling, injury, short week, everything. Every other bit of logic except for just the team versus the other team suggests that you should stay off it. But the Bears aren't very good. The Bucks are playing great.
Jim Rummy has a fair line Bucks minus 4.5 or minus 5, and the total at 47.5. You know, why would I? You know what I should do is I should not just take the over. I should just take the Buccaneers over at 24.5. That's what it
seems to be the smarter play there, Jimmy.
All right. So it's team totals over 24.5 right now, but it's juiced. Bet 365. I mean, look how lucky it is being a book. It's at 20 cents in each direction. All you need is similar bets on each side, and you're rich. Should be minus 110 in each direction. I should be using Pinnacle, but whatever. Okay. Team total over 24.5 is what I'm looking at right now. And no move for Bebsy on Thursday night to continue with his rich tradition of just staying off.
Is it a tradition after 4 weeks? Can we call it a tradition? We can. We can do whatever we want. Let's do it. It's a tradition. I don't care.
Steel Curtain says, you guys give who the public is on in your Sunday shows. You know, Steel Curtain, that's a very important point that you bring up. And, you know, I spent a lot of the last couple years capping with Teddy Covers, and Teddy kind of got in my head, which I was very thankful for, and I love the guy, but he got in my head about just let that shit go. Cap the game. Handicap the game and don't get caught up in where the public is and where the sharps are and all that. And you know, when you're a veteran like Teddy is, it's probably easier to say, you know, let that go, just cap the game. But it is extremely important and becoming more and more important. And I think that I'm starting to let go of that idea. And Pete was along the same lines. Like we would handicap the game to the best of our abilities and not let that get into our head. But it feels like if there's one sport you should let that get into your head, it's NFL. Because that's where the books make all their money. And if you just fade the public in every game all year, every year, you know, you can pay your mortgage. So, you know, I'm not sure. This is Bebsy and I, this is our first year working together. And I'm not entirely sure if that's going to become a bigger part of the show, and it just might be. All right, there you go. Buccaneers, Bears. I'm leaning on a Tampa Bay team total over right now. I do have some interest in this over going against these market moves. We'll see. All right, let's move on to the 1 o'clock games. Bebsy, we're going to start with Panthers, Falcons. What I've done with Carolina makes me so angry. I told you on the show that they have playmakers, and losing McCaffrey is going to give us value, and yet I don't move on them.
We literally had opposing opinions of McCaffrey, but I said the opposite of my own opinion. I didn't bet on them, but yeah, you're not even listening to your own advice.
It's angry. It makes me so. But I'm not just going to. And I did this last week. That was the problem last week. I was like, okay, don't get upset that you missed that win against the Chargers that you wanted to bet. Don't get upset and force yourself playing them there. And I was hesitant because the Cardinals were coming off a bad loss, and I was hesitant. So I don't mind the second day off. The first day off still upsets me. The Falcons open up at -3, and the books, it's hard to understand what the books are doing. And I had to even double check. Are they really doing this? And they are.
They are, and that's why this has got to be my first play of the week. I don't understand how, given the way Atlanta has played and the leads they've given up and how deflated and flat and bad they looked against a Green Bay team that really put out their worst effort of the season so far, they still look dominated in that game. Carolina's surging. They're behind their rookie head coach. They're rallying with the absence of McCaffrey. They're playing good football. So I don't understand how this line opened up this way.
But it's not just that, Bebsy. It's the fact that some books are still hanging it that way. So Bet365 has moved to 2. But over here to sorry, let me just show what some of these offshore indicators are doing, because there's still 3.5s out here.
I also want to just make a quick mention here. Steel Curtain said in the chat, Panthers are a weird team to read. I could not agree more, and it isn't just this year. I feel like the Panthers for 4 years in a row have been this team that wins games they shouldn't, loses games they shouldn't. They have been so frustrating to bet on for years now. Nothing's changed. I don't know, something in the water in Carolina, I guess. I don't know. But God, are they frustrating. And now that I'm on them this week, this is where they blow it.
Another thing that's just happened is some of these books have taken it off the board, which is always going to pique interest. And so some of these leading indicator offshores have taken it off the board. Let's talk about the licensed American books. They're all at, wow, even this. Look, Bet Rivers just moved it to 1.5. Wow. Fox Bet still hanging at 3. So you can still get +3, heavily juiced to -118 at Fox Bet. The rest of the books are hanging 2.5. Very interesting. So many moving parts. Let's break it down. Panthers have won 2 straight. Big 31-21 win at home over the Cardinals. Teddy Bridgewater, 26 for 37, 267 yards, 2 scores. Ran 6 times for 32 yards and 1 TD. Panthers put up 168 yards rushing without McCaffrey. Mike Davis finishes with 111 yards from scrimmage. Reggie Bonifant, 53 yards rushing and caught a TD pass. Robbie Anderson, 99 yards receiving. It's just Panthers' O-line is just banged up. We have Russell Okung and Dennis Daly, both questionable. Okung has missed 2 straight games. Eli Apple left the Cardinals game due to a hamstring injury. He'd missed the first 3 games of the year with the hamstring injury. So I don't expect him in the lineup. But the big point we made on Sunday was Kawan Short's going to be back. You're going to put him beside the 7th overall draft pick. And Derek Brown had a very bad first 2 games. And we saw that in play. This Cardinals team that's capable of running the ball weren't able to against that front 7. Falcons coming off an ugly 30-16 loss at Green Bay on Monday. Bebsy, interesting. I had, even some of our friends asked me about this game, and I was like, look, the Sharps are on the Falcons. Bebsy's on the Packers. Do with that what you will. Ryan went
saying I'm not a Sharp? Is that what's going on?
No, the Sharps were clearly on the Falcons. That's why the point total went down to 5. It went down to plus 5.5 for the Falcons.
In a way, it felt like a possible letdown spot, but Green Bay has looked so good. And even with the injuries, even with Lazard out, and even with why am I drawing a blank? One of the best receivers in the league, Devontae Adams. With Devontae Adams out, they still played great. And I said this before, Rodgers is on a warpath. He's got his mojo going. He looks great. It just felt like an easy play. I got a little nervous in the second half, and it worked out. But I could understand why people were on the Falcons. But man, they've lost 6 straight games when they've been leading by 10 or more points. That's the most in NFL history that anybody's done. They just look defeated. They look like they've already given up on the season. They look like they've given up on the coach, much like the Texans. Although, I don't think they hate Dan Quinn like I believe the Texans hate Bill O'Brien. But it just looks like they're not playing for their coach. And it's him or Gase next. It seems like New York doesn't care to throw Gase away yet, but Dan Quinn was on the hot seat last year in a surprise move. They kept him. I liked the move. Now I'm looking like I'm wrong on that. I don't think Gase or Quinn last much longer.
Well, I'm not in full agreement because there's guys like Olamide that are Olamide Zacchaeus that are stepping up huge. Your Matt Ryan's missing, so Julio Jones bangs out, and it doesn't matter. Olamide's had 2 big games in a row. There's certain guys on this team that are getting opportunities with Matty Ice back there. So I think there's going to be value on the Falcons moving forward.
There could be, and they started out slow last year. They started out terrible last year and became one of the more dangerous teams to play down the stretch. I just don't know if I'm feeling the same thing right now from these guys.
He says you love these bum fights. Look, I don't think the Panthers are bums. And yes.
I'm starting to not think the Panthers are bums. I did at the start of the year. I had them looking at a top 5 pick going into next season, but I was dead wrong about that.
Hayden Hurst, 4 catches for 51 yards. Julio Jones, hamstring injury, misses the second half. Let's talk about the problem here and whether or not Teddy Bridgewater can take advantage of it. And that's this Falcons secondary badly beat up. Packers took advantage. 3 touchdown drives in their first 4 possessions in the first half. So you got DeMonte Casey torn Achilles during the game. So he's done for the year. Jalen Hawkins left Monday's game with a head injury. He's questionable this week. Ricardo Allen has missed 2 straight games. Cam O'Neal missed the Packers game. Both are questionable. A.J. Terrell on COVID-19 reserve. And then Tack McKinley missed the Packers game. I know he's their defensive end. So the Panthers are going to be able to put up points. And I feel like, and I don't want to compare Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers, but Matt Ryan can move the ball through the air without Julio and without his best receivers. So let's just see what this totals at one more time here. This total opened up at 54.5. The leading indicator books are hammering it down, but it's still at 53.5 at most of the books. There's 51s out there, which I will double check. What do you think of this total?
To be honest, I kind of lean towards the over in this. I'm a bit surprised it's coming down because we know both of these offense can put up points. And the big question mark for both of these teams is a defense. So to me, the over is very much in play. But if it's going to keep dropping, you almost want to sit back and watch it.
Yeah, I agree. We've had you cut in and out there. I'm going to pull you out just for a second, see if I can get your clarity for the internet just very quickly. I'm going to pull you out. See if I can get you back in looking sharp. All right, let's keep rolling. No move on Panthers Falcons at this point. Any move for you?
Yeah, I think I'm on the Panthers here. week one, there's no way if I would have looked forward to this game, I'd be thinking this way. But I think Carolina rolls in this, especially being the dog. I don't care if they got to travel to the Dome in Atlanta.
Dennis Garcia says, I hate divisional overs, but can't take the under. Robert Allen says Matt Rule could be coach of the year. Mr. Fun Monk says, remember the days when some guys had a man crush on Matt Ryan? It says, of course, I did too. Overtime looking at longest pass. Birdie says, week 5 now, overs had hit at a monster clip. And the Sharps are blindly betting unders. And I agree with that. There's my man Nilo in the house. All right, we're going to lock in the Panthers +3 at -118. That is the only 3 on the board and comes courtesy of our friends at FoxBet. All righty. Jin Rummy giving us our fair look says Falcons fair at -6, 6.5. Wow. And 54.5 without situational factors. Oh, Jin, I love having you in the chat giving us your models fair lines. I love that. Wow. Okay, there you go. Panthers, Falcons. All right, let's move on to the next 1 p.m. spot, Bills, Titans. And this is not on the board at many spots. And as you can imagine why, a couple offshores are hanging either Tennessee as a favorite, a very slight favorite, which is shocking. The licensed books have not put it out on the board, and that's because Titans had to cancel last week because of their COVID test. They're expected to be let back into their facilities tomorrow. They have, at this point,
positive tests today, I believe.
0 positive tests today, yes, but 20 positive tests as of 5 or 6 hours ago. Now, 10 of them are team personnel. And so at that point, I think we should just say there's been 10 positive tests. So we don't care if the masseuse has COVID.
No, that's a big mistake, Jimmy. Those guys are important too. It's like that time Mike Myers made fun of the audio guys at the Oscars and they cut his mic. You know, you're asking for trouble here, Jimmy.
I might be, but let me give a big shout out to Robert Kraft for getting off his charges at that dingy ass. What do you call it? It's just a dingy little jerk and go there. Good work, Robert Kraft. You got your best lawyers on it. They had tape of you, and you got off.
Billionaires get shit done.
I like it. No, I like that he got off, man. The guy's a widower. Let him get – okay. All right.
I don't know if I can agree with you here, Jimmy, but I like the hard line you're taking.
Oh, I'm so happy he got off. Attaboy, Robert Kraft. Now pick a better spot next time. You want the old jerk and tickle, all right?
Oh, he got off.
On the reserve COVID-19 list, Daquan Jones, their defensive captain, their long snapper, Bo Brinkley, wide receiver, Adam Humphries. Okay, wait, let me give you a test, Rob. How many of these names do you know? Okay. Obviously, Daquan Jones, Bo Brinkley, Adam Humphries, okay. Kamalai Correa, Christian Fulton. He was their second-round pick out of LSU. Probably Cameron Batson, Tommy Hudson, Gregory Mabin, Jeffrey Simmons. He's actually on their roster.
No, Jeffrey Simmons is actually an extremely underrated player.
He's on their roster.
No, that guy can play ball.
We've got a bunch of practice squatters in here. Offensive tackle Isaiah Wilson. He was their first-round pick out of Georgia. He's been out on the COVID list since September 6th. Kari Blossengame. How many of those? Over 50%?
Well, I'm ridiculously obsessed with this game. So, yes, I recognize most of those players. But as far as impact players go, beyond Jeffrey Simmons, maybe Humphreys, it starts looking kind of bleak. But Simmons, I think, is a huge factor. Personally, like that guy's a space eater on defense. He's one of those guys who doesn't necessarily show up on the stat sheet week in and week out, but he's super important. I think their defensive line, he was drafted last year, but he was out for the season with an ACL. So this is essentially his rookie season, even though it's his second year. And he's an important player. He's that DeForest Buckner type that you don't always see on the stat sheet, but man, he's doing everything right. He's eating space. He's eating bodies. So he is a big loss. Beyond that, it's like the B squad went out drinking at a pub and they all got sick together.
And that's sort of what I'm kind of alluding to, that it's not, but you're right. You made a good point on Simmons. Let's talk about the Bills. They moved to 4-0. And Dennis Garcia says Buffalo has switched roles, elite offense, mediocre defense. 4-0 after their 30-23 win over the Raiders, averaging 30.75 points per game. That's third best in the league. Allen goes 24 of 34 for 288 yards, 2 TDs, 0 interceptions. Stephon Diggs, 6 catches for 115 yards. 9 different players catch passes. And then linebacker Delshon Phillips and Zach Moss missed last game and a questionable play this week, but it's Levi Wallace and Matt Milano. They're week to week. So that cornerback Levi Wallace is very good. Matt Milano, very good. They're week to week. Brian Winters, guard, questionable with a knee injury. We don't have a total up yet, but I think that people could take – I think the over is going to be in play, first off. And I'm curious – I'd like to guess what we think the over is going to open at. And the last few years when these teams played, they've been very low-scoring tight games. I certainly don't think that's going to happen this year. Bills-Titans. What do you think, Bebsy?
I mean, all I can go off is an offshore book right now. The fact that the Titans are favored seems insane to me. Just look, yes, they technically have another week off rest, but it feels like that's it's not a calm week off. It's not like they had a good relaxing week off. They're probably all wondering if they're going to get sick. So 20 positive tests, 10 player tests. Really, we talked about this. The only super significant player is Jeffrey Simmons, maybe again Humphreys. But to me, this is a very, very good Bills team that people are still sleeping on. It seems like no matter who they beat, no matter where they win, no matter what they win by, people are still just like, yeah, it's the Bills. And I get it. It's hard to put stock in the Bills, but I loved them last year. That defense was phenomenal. They were getting better. They added some important parts to make that offense better. The offense has looked much better. McDermott is, again, if McDermott was coaching somewhere else, we'd be talking about him every week, but nobody cares what's happening up in Buffalo. But they're going to keep shocking teams. And to me, if this book, I see one offshore book that has -1.5 for the Tennessee Titans. This is a no-brainer. You take the Bills. I think the Bills, if anything, should be favored here.
What do you think of the look-ahead spot for the Chiefs? Birdie says, Bills have Chiefs on deck. 5-0 versus 5-0, massive look-ahead spot. 100% they want Bills money. What do you think?
Yeah, look, Birdie, love you, respect you, but I just don't. I think look-ahead spots are a lot worse for teams with bad coaches. I don't think McDermott is one of those bad coaches. I think the Bills, this shouldn't be a look-ahead spot. The Titans are still a good football team, so you should really. They're going to take it week by week. I have too much respect for McDermott to think this is a look-ahead game.
Well, the books that have opened up, they want Bills money, and they're going to get it. I'm very interested to see where this ends up. We had a guess from Dennis on the total at 49. It's funny because I was guessing 51, so I was going a couple points higher. I'm very excited about this spot. I'd love to see, because there's just going to be just a landslide of money that comes in on the Buffalo Bills here. There's Bills Titans. A couple offshores have hung out. One's hung a 1.5 on the Titans. One's hung a 2.5 on the Titans. It's a very tricky game. Are the Titans rested? With all these COVID tests?
I would say the Titans should be rested, but look, I don't care how good a shape you're in. There's still anxiety when everybody around you is sick, especially with COVID-19. So I don't know if it's resting in a typical bye week of resting. And frankly, the Bills are healthier than they've been in recent weeks. So I'm on Bills hard. It's hard to say right now with just the one. I can only see the one book that's up right now that has anything. But if that's what it comes in on, then it's Bills easy pick for me.
Yeah, I see a couple. There's a third book. I see 3 books up, either 1.5 or 2.5s. Okay, there's Bills Titans. Let's move on to Raiders Chiefs. Raiders coming off a 30-23 loss to the Bills, and very thankful that Birdie kept me off the Raiders. I wanted to move on them at plus 3.5, but that was going to be too juiced at the time, and Bebsy was trying to push me onto the Bills first half, which wasn't an easy casher, but a casher, and that's all that is important. Derek Carr finished 32 of 44 for 311 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's yet to throw an interception this year, and I like what he's saying in the media. I don't look at it as whining, and I understand that some people can. I look at it as frustrated and wanting to be a winner badly. Josh Jacobs, 15 rushes for 48 yards, not good enough. Waller bounced back after a tough game, caught 9 passes for 88 yards. Renfro, 5 passes for 57 yards. But the Raiders are just so banged up. You have a defensive tackle, Maurice Hurst, just a few hours ago put on the COVID list. And what is going to bang out from that is questionable. I don't know. So this just happened. Maurice Hurst on the COVID list. Henry Ruggs, Rico Gafford, Brian Edwards all missed the Bills game. So that's 3 wide receivers. Trent Brown missed the Bills game. He's listed as questionable. Running back Jalen Richard hurt his ankle versus the Bills. He's questionable. LaMarcus Joyner was forced out of the Sunday's game with a rib injury. He's questionable. And then Malik Collins injured his shoulder in the third quarter and did not return. So they're banged up. Cash Action says KC in the under. Dennis Garcia says, I want to play the under. Chiefs are coming off a tighter game than the score would indicate in that 26-10 win over the Pats last night. Mahomes 19 of 29 for 236 yards. Edwards-Helaire 16 for 64. It wasn't until the Honey Badger had that pick 6 that you could get comfortable if you had action on the Chiefs. They are a very healthy group, but Chris Jones is on the injury report. So, he was out with a groin injury. It sidelined him in practice last week. And then Mike Dana joined him with a hamstring injury. So defensive tackle, defensive end. But other than that, they are healthy. Kevin Movita says Chiefs will eat the Raiders alive. Let's see what we're dealing with. Chiefs open up at minus 12.5. They're now minus 13. This total's at 56. And I guess I'm reading too much into what I saw against the Pats, but to me, 13 is too many points. Just too many points. Bebsy, what do you think of the Raiders Chiefs?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. 13's a lot of points. But remember what I said about Bill Belichick facing the Chiefs. He had that game scheduled for months. And if you watch, he is getting better and better at defending Mahomes and that Chiefs offense all the time. So that score, if anything, is an indication of Belichick being Belichick more than it is the Chiefs, not being as good as we think they are. The Chiefs are very good. And the Oakland defense is getting exposed lately. They have some injuries. And frankly, that was the problem with them at the start of the year. Their offense looked like they could put it together. Their defense was a big question mark. I just wonder about a slightly shorter week for the Chiefs playing a divisional game. It's not a game I to be honest with you, I want to take the Chiefs at plus, or the Raiders at plus 13. I just can't. It's so hard to bet against this Chiefs offense because they can score in bunches. We've seen how fast they can throw up 25, 35, 45 points. It's nuts.
This is nuts. And Birdie's right. There's a couple interesting comments from the chat, and I would like to talk about them both. One, we know that the books are rich, because of VIG, obviously, but because of the NFL. That's why they make all their money. And here they put out a line asking for you to say, go ahead, bet the Raiders. Go bet the Raiders here. Bet the Raiders, which makes me uncomfortable. And that's what Birdie's talking about. Robert Allen says, bounce back game. See what the Chiefs did after the Chargers game versus Baltimore. They're going to play much better this week and bounce back. What do you think of those two statements from the chat?
You know what? I tend to want to agree with it because the NFL loves their offense, and this is what the Chiefs are. They are an absolute powerhouse. There's also I'm sort of distracted because there's a bunch of guys saying exactly what I think and thought when Gruden got rehired as a coach they're saying lovable but overrated. He hasn't shown that he can adapt to today's game. He still wants to play, in the late 90s, early 2000s. I think his brain is still there, and frankly, the game has changed a ton. Now, if you look at what he assembled on offense, you're like, okay, no, look, he gets it. But I'm still seeing his in-game decisions. He's just getting out-coached in a lot of situations. Andy Reid never left the game. He's the epitome of what today's NFL is. So, and I love what you said about the books teasing you to, urging you to take the Raiders in this. And I've almost talked myself into the Chiefs just with what was said in the last 30 seconds.
Interesting, because I've talked myself off of the Raiders. So
yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, you've talked yourself off the Raiders. I've kind of talked myself into the Chiefs while I was leaning Raiders. But
let's move to this total, 56. And Dennis has already talked about how long it takes this Raiders team to put points up on the board. It takes them a ton of time. I mean, an offense that's predicated on Jacobs and Waller is going to take time on any successful drive. Do you think that 56 is too high?
Well, it's hard to ever think 56 is too high when the Chiefs are playing a bad defense, because the Chiefs are more than capable of hanging 40 points on their own. So that's the kind of thing that scares me off taking the Chiefs. If they get up too fast and too much, they take their foot off the gas, and then they're going to hit the under. But if a team can exchange body blows with them throughout the game, then it's going to be an over by a massive amount. So I think the Chiefs are one of the more difficult teams to bet on point total if they're playing a weak opponent. If they're playing a good opponent, I love the over because I see them getting into a shootout, but I don't see this getting into a shootout. I see the Chiefs getting up early and then just cruising to victory, which is another reason why the 13 scares me.
I agree with you.
So, look, you could get a backdoor cover, but there are a lot of hurt Raiders as well. So,
no, I agree. I think the play is the under. I think that was such a sharp, salient point that if you can fight fire with fire, Chiefs will get you that over. But if you could just beat up on a football team, Andy Reid will start running the ball and just ensure the comfortable victory and get out of Dodge.
Curiosity, what are the first half totals looking like?
Let's pull them up right now. The first half total is sitting at 28. A couple books are hanging 27.5, which is a very important half point.
Doesn't excite me.
Well, I tell you what.
Yeah, it doesn't excite me.
It excites me. I'm on the under 56. I think it's just too many points. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous. And watching the Chiefs go up. I mean, what did you think watching that game last night with 19 of 29 for 236 yards from Mahomes? I mean, when you were watching the Chiefs have such difficulty moving the ball, and I know you have great respect for Belichick, but what were you thinking about that Chiefs offense? They just didn't have to, because I think it goes back to the point where if you fight fire with fire, then Chiefs will put up the points, but the Raiders aren't going to be able to fight fire with fire, and the Chiefs will just comfortably win and run the clock.
Well, that's what I mean. That's why you lean towards the under. But as far as the game last night, I saw Patriots defense that was designed to come out and stop the Chiefs, because again, Bill's a mastermind, and if you watch each game he's played against this offense under Mahomes, he's gotten better. He's figuring it out. That defense, although they're missing guys like Patrick Chung and Donta Hightower because they opted out, look, it's still a Belichick run defense. This guy can grab, ex-hockey players and be like, you know how to do this, right? Get in there. Like, he's such a mastermind at dissecting offenses, and I think you saw a lot of it last night. And like you said, the score indication, if it wasn't for Edelman dropping that pass and bumping it right into Matthews' arms, that's a very different looking score and potentially a different game. So I think the Chiefs come back hot in this game, but again, it's so easy for them to get off early and start blowing this team up and then be like, okay, we can cruise. And Birdie was saying that, yeah, they're staring at 5-0 and they just want to get through the game. All the more reason for them to pour on points early and then just go into cruise control, which I think is the dangerous part of both the spread and the under. Or sorry, the over.
Dennis Garcia, very interesting point, says Kansas City defense had Herbert with no time to prepare, Watson and Jackson, and they've yet to give up more than 20 points. Where does Carr rank against those quarterbacks?
I think, Carr is obviously not Jackson, but I think Carr has been unfairly disrespected, I think, over his career. I don't love him, but I think he's a good quarterback. He throws a nice ball. He's either had no O-line and good weapons or no weapons and a good O-line. He's finally got a good balanced offense in a system that he's been able to play in for a few years in a row now. So I think you're seeing, and to be fair, he's put up decent numbers throughout his career. He gets hated on, and I don't fully understand it. I think there's a lot of teams that could use Carr over their starting quarterback. So yeah, I think Carr is an average to above average quarterback, and some of the aforementioned players are in the same boat.
All right, I like this breakdown. It was fun.
Al Mack makes a good point. You cry on the field, and I'm not going to love you. And I kind of got over that, and I kind of let it go. I also don't like that it always looks like he's wearing mascara. It's just weird. It's just weird, but that's just he's got them weird Carr eyelashes. Creeps me out.
He's a goth quarterback, man. Always has been. Under 56 for me. Raiders, Chiefs. Under 56 is what I'm going to be moving on.
You going to roll with it?
Yeah, I'm going to roll with it. I'm going to pull you in and out very quickly here. Bebsy, pull you in and out. See if we can get that. All right. We're going to move into Cardinals, Jets. And Cardinals, Jets. Before we do go, did that first half at Chiefs -7 interest you, or did just stay off was your plan?
Well, you didn't mention that. You said total, but you didn't mention the spread.
-7 Chiefs across the board.
-7 does that kind of like that, actually. Chiefs -7 first half?
Yep.
I can get behind that.
Well, you don't need to lock it in right now if you don't want to, but you can if you'd like.
You know what? Let me think about this, and we'll circle back to the end of the show, but I kind of like that play.
Nilo is on it. I'm going to put Bebsy right there, first half, just so I can bring it back to you. All right, let's keep rolling here. We move on to Cardinals, Jets. Cardinals, Jets. Let's see what we are dealing with right now. Wow. Let me just move that to full game. Sorry. Okay, here we go. Cardinals open up at -7.5. That's not available.
Dick Vermeil used to cry like a real man. Mr. Fun Monk is a bit of a chat room all-star tonight. I love this guy.
He is succeeding. And Gate Pass Key, Dennis Garcia. We got a bunch of great cappers. Prince of the City, Birdie, Al Mag, Viper, Lance LaRose. A lot of guys, Dennis Garcia, a lot of guys, Steel Curtain, Cash Action. Okay, good group. Let's make some money. Next up, we have Cardinals Jets. Cardinals open up at 7.5. Now they're at 7. Still open up at 46.5. 146.5 still on board. Mainly, they've gone up to 47. Cardinals have not looked good now back-to-back weeks. 31-21 loss to Carolina. Murray threw 3 touchdown passes, but was limited to 133 yards passing. Arizona finished with 262 yards of offense. Not good. Just 55 plays. Hopkins came in averaging more than 10 catches, 118 yards, 41 yards on 7 receptions, and you probably could have predicted that after not practicing all week due to a foot injury. Kenyon Drake left late in the fourth quarter, and it was unclear whether he left because he was, shook up from a big hit or the fact that he was held to 28 yards on 12 carries. He's not on the injury report. Devon Kennard, their linebacker, and Budda Baker, Chris Banjo, their safeties are questionable this week. And then we have this Jets squad. It was very aggravating, betting them on Thursday night. The heat's on Adam Gase. We've already seen one.
I told you to stay off him.
I know. It was such a horrifying roller coaster ride. Like, it was just.
Look, I understood the excitement because it really looked like at home on a short week they should get their first win, but it's the Jets, led by Adam Gase, who they got to be licking their chops right now thinking, okay, all right, the Houston Texans got rid of their moron. Let's get rid of ours. Maybe the Jets are tanking this week. I don't want to say it, but maybe they are. Also, I gave you that Bills pick. I said I even sent you an emoji that said, "What do you got against free money?" And you
did. It was humorous.
It was humorous. I liked that.
Denver got 6 sacks. They did whatever they wanted against this Jets offensive line. And that happened in game. So during the game, they lost 3 offensive tackles. George Fant to a thumb injury. A thumb injury. Just chop it off and get back out on the field, George.
Yeah, Ronnie Lott did it. Why are you such a coward?
Coward's a nice way of putting it. Mekhi Becton, shoulder injury. And Chuma Adoga, shoulder injury. They lose defensive end Jordan. Or sorry, don't lose. Those guys were lost their game. Defensive end Jordan Willis, defensive tackle Steve McClendon, safety Ashton Davis, and cornerback Bless Austin are all hurt. So they're all questionable to go. They're not out. Le'Veon Bell obviously remains on the IR. Darnold said he hopes to play through the sprained AC joint.
They're not going to play him.
Is this a spot where you take that you're getting a gift on the Cardinals? Frank Gore goes 13 for 30. I mean, thank God for Jamison Crowder out there. I mean, Jeff Smith also looked good. Is this a spot where the Cardinals at -7 is a great look, or should we just stay off this game totally and not reach?
It just feels like 2 bad football teams. Again, I said the Cards got overrated because of their victory over the Niners week 1. Look, the Niners just got embarrassed by Philadelphia. Now, there was many reasons for that that didn't apply to the week 1 game, but you gotta figure nobody on the Jets cares about football right now except for 2 guys. 1, Frank Gore, because Frank Gore never stops caring about football. And 2, Joe Flacco, because Joe Flacco is just trying to continue to have a job for a couple more years. Grab a few more paychecks, that's it. But the problem is it doesn't matter. Frank Gore is past the point where he can carry a team. So if that offensive line isn't healthy and can't block, it's irrelevant. And Flacco was never good. Flacco got carried to an MVP, So they're not going to play Darnold. Darnold is still their investment for the future. So they're not going to play him.
Confirmed. Flacco is confirmed. Darnold's out. Flacco confirmed.
Yeah, Darnold's not playing. There's no way. Even if Sam Darnold wants to play, that organization still has to protect what should. Look, he's getting unfairly lumped into being a bust because the team is awful. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I think if he was drafted in a different spot, are you trying to tell me that if he was on Cleveland instead of Baker Mayfield, he wouldn't be doing a lot better? It's a garbage football team. They're not going to show up at all. And Arizona still is playing for something. I don't think the Jets are anymore. So it does kind of feel like an easy take here. I just wish it was 6.5, not 7.
Feels like this is an angry Cardinal squad. Pepper says, give me Arizona by 100 points. This is a very angry Arizona squad. Now they have to travel all the way across the country. That's not easy. I don't want to just react here, but it just feels like
the problem is Arizona's defense got too much credit in the offseason because they drafted Isaiah Simmons. That's it. That's all. They drafted Isaiah Simmons, and all of a sudden they went from being a garbage defense to a very good defense. Look, I like Isaiah Simmons. He was great at Clemson, but he's still going to take a bit of time. He's still one of those players that's, yes, he's a pure linebacker, but he's also a bit of a hybrid in the sense that at Clemson, they had him playing all over the field. So he's not going to transform a defense in year one. He's still got a year in an NFL weight room to bulk up to the size that he should be. And Budda Baker is still the most important player on that defense. And Budda Baker, he's been out.
The Cardinals are angry. Okay, I want to back the Cardinals, and I want to back them early. And
I feel like this line is going to move in favor of the Cardinals, although it's been bet down.
It has. I just feel like that's got to be a overreaction. I'm going to – okay, what do you think about the difficulty of flying across the country for a morning game?
It's hard. It's always hard, especially with a younger, less experienced team. That, I think, is the biggest factor. But, man, let's not forget, 2 weeks ago, the Niners' second and third string team beat the absolute shit out of the Jets. And, again, the fact that – I do believe that the fact that Bill O'Brien got fired plays into the psyche of this team a lot. There's no way they like Adam Gase. There's no way they like him. The guy's a zombie robot weirdo, and he's a terrible coach who, if you would have asked me to bet who's going to get fired first this year, I wouldn't have said Bill O'Brien. He would have been my number 2 choice. My number 1 choice would have been Gase. That he's got to be on the chopping block. And this team's got to be looking at, like, let's get this guy out of here. He doesn't look like he prepares for any game at all.
All right, I'm doubling up here, but I'm taking them early. Not that I don't think they cover everything, but I want them early. I want this angry Cardinal squad early. First quarter -2.5. First half -3.5. I'm going to take Cardinals. And that's locked in. What do you think of this total, Bebsy, before we move on to the next spot on the card? This total sitting at 46.5 or 47.
I mean, if anything, I like the under here. I don't trust the Jets to put up points against anyone, especially with Darnold out. Even a hungry Flacco is worse than a uninterested Darnold.
Flacco's, I think, going to take it very conservatively. It does make me want to move on the under. I don't know if I'm capable of it, but the total at 47.
If what Birdie is saying has any truth to it, the Texans deserve to lose every game forever.
The under is interesting. And I'm just going to leave question marks there. But first quarter, first half, I'm going to double up. Let's move on to
what's first half. You said first quarter was -2.5. What's first half?
First half's -3.5 or 4, but 3.5 is readily available.
I like that play too.
Well, if you wanted to know what the legal licensed American books are offering you here, first half, let me just move over there. This is at the odds.com odds page. First half, how are you? Only one book's offering it. Funny. So they're hesitant. And it's so juiced. Wow. You're probably going to want to wait. Oh, but I can give you Bet365. So let me take that back. Bet365 is offering you -3.5 at -115.
Yeah, lock me in there. I like that.
Okay. All right, so I'm in first quarter, first half. Bebsy, first half, -3.5 at -115. By the way, just so you guys know what I was looking at, Bet Rivers is the only licensed American book that's offering up a first half right now, and it's -3.5 at -134. -134. Mr. Fun Monk says, "Is your voice changing, Jimmy?" Says, "You hear a squeak in my voice." Yes, and I still have acne. All right, let's move on. Eagles, Steelers. This is an interesting spot, man. Let's break it down. And our Steelers just a slam dunk here. Also, this total is being hammered. Open at 46.5, down to 43.5. Pittsburgh opens up at -7. It's where they are now. One leading indicator book has moved it to 7.5, but at plus money. Eagles coming off their first win of the season, 25-20 at San Fran. 3 wide receivers didn't play, and they're all listed as questionable. So Wentz wins that game in San Fran without Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Wentz came into the week with the lowest passer rating and most turnovers in the NFL. Travis Fulgham caught a go-ahead 42-yard touchdown pass. He got 2 passes for 57 yards. Greg Ward caught 4 passes for 38 yards. Richard Rodgers caught 3 passes for 35 yards. Who are these guys? Wentz finishes 18 for 28 for 193 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Lane Johnson left the game in the first half with an ankle injury, but he came back. He's supposed to be good to go this week. Peterson said he's going to play through the pain. Linebacker TJ Edwards, safety Ruby Ford, both left the game in the first half with hamstring injuries and didn't return. And they're not questionable. They're doubtful. So don't expect linebacker and safety to be in the lineup. Still dealing with Avonte Maddox. His injury, he's questionable to play this week. And the Steelers team, with this unexpected bye, are so healthy and chomping at the bit to return. There's nobody on their injury report.
A healthy, non-concerned week off.
Yeah,
I might add.
It's huge.
I mean, to me, when this is one of the few games that jumped out as soon as I saw the lines open. I have to take Pitt here. They're so good on D. They're off. They're just so balanced. And let's face it, if you watch that Philly Niners game, which I'm sure most people did, it was a Sunday nighter. San Francisco lost that game more than Philly won that game. Wentz played out of his mind. He played great. He was dodging tackles left, right, and center from the 3rd, 4th, and 5th string Niners defensive line. But Nick Mullins gave up 17 points. He threw a pick 6, which was one of the worst professional throws I've ever seen a quarterback make. It was just absolutely awful. He gave up the fumble where it just looked like he had 0 pocket awareness. That turned into 7 points. And he also threw another atrocious pick in the red zone. That's a 17-point swing just from him. Now, to be fair, he had no protection, and they were terrible all game. But if you have Garoppolo in that game and not Nick Mullins, who gets rid of the ball so much faster and doesn't make decisions near that bad or throws that bad, it's a win. So let's relax the Philly hype, and this is just an easy smashing for the for the Steelers, who've had an extra week to prepare. They are healthy, they are hungry, and they are going to eat in this game.
I agree. I feel like this is a double up spot here.
It could be. What are we looking at for first half here?
-4. Before we decide if that's what we're going to do, what do you think of this total? Dennis Garcia got in on the under 45. Right now, it's down to 43.5 at Bet365 and a few others, 44 of the other books. What do you think of the total?
I see Philly having a real tough time with all the injuries. And look, Wentz was able to escape the backup. The Niners have defensive tackles playing defensive end right now. So the athleticism isn't there. The Steelers, however, have a healthy TJ Watt and a healthy Bud Dupree. Wentz is going to struggle in this game. He is going to get eaten up, especially with a hurt Lane Johnson. And Jordan Mailata, for a guy who just started learning how to play football a couple of years ago, he was pretty impressive. He is a massive, massive human being. But look, this Steelers defensive line is going to expose the injuries, and they're too athletic to let Wentz get away like the Niners did. So to me, this is just if anything, it's an under. And oh man, I'm almost enticed to. Do we triple up here, Jimmy? Do we take
Eagles
under
team total? Eagles team total is at 16.5, juiced heavily to the over. And before you make a decision on that, what do you think of Birdie saying, be careful with first half? Could be a slow start. 2 weeks off will affect the Steelers early.
You know what? If there were less injuries with the Eagles, I would agree. I don't know. Maybe I kind of do. Maybe I agree. Damn it, I like Birdie.
Yeah. Oh, he's a good capper. What do you think of the total at 16.5?
I really see Philadelphia struggling to move the ball in this game. Everything I just said about the Niners' injuries is the opposite of the Steelers right now. They are amped. They are ready to go.
16.5, heavily juiced to the over at Bet365. -138 to the over, +100 to the under. So,
yeah, Nilo's making another great point. Loving the chat tonight. Also, Nilo reminded me to get a refill of my beer, so I appreciate that. But
he fights a good fight.
Yeah, no, he's. I really respect Nilo for looking out for me there. He's right. Very hard to win back-to-back road games, no matter how good a team is, and it is Philly, and they are playing, in my opinion, right now the third best football team in the NFL. So, I think this is an absolute shit stomping for the Steelers.
It seems like they're
from Mr. Funnemonk. Well, I don't know if I'll go that far, but it's not outrageous.
Well, first half is -4, full game is -7, and the Eagles team total under is at 16.5 at plus money.
Yeah, Almax, sorry, just the beers tonight, no hard stuff.
Plus money. So I think I'll make you move on the Steelers. We'll revisit this once we're finished capping all these games. But first half -4, full game -7, Eagles team total under 16.5 are all in play. They're all in play right now. Are you going to make anything official right now?
I got to make the -7 official, and I got to ponder the rest. But I gotta back the Steelers. I think it's that was one of the lines that jumped out quick. I was like, why? This has to be a Pittsburgh blowout.
Well, let's discuss what you would be getting here on the Steelers. Here we go. It's -110 or -109. Bet America is giving you -109. So is resortscasino.com. So is that what you'd like? -7, -109?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Bebsy's in for full game -7. minus 109.
TJ Watt is a beast. Can we believe he went 29th overall? Can we believe 28 picks went before him? Come on.
No, it's wild. He's a
Or was he
excellent
30?
football player. Rob Watkins, why don't you answer this before we move on? It says Steelers are not the third best team. Look at the 3 teams they beat. You are overrating the Steelers. Wait until they play somebody good.
All right. We'll see, Rob Watkins. We'll see. I think they are a team being slept on because of how mediocre they were last year. So I love that defense too much, and that offense is good. That's all they have to be with how good that defense is. So agree to disagree, but I can only think of 2 teams that I think are more well-rounded and better than them right now. Could be wrong.
Let's move on to Rams, Washington Football Club. Rams open up at -9. They're now -7 or 7.5. Total opens up at 46. It is now at 45.5. The 3-1 Rams cost us badly on Sunday. Rams are coming off this ugly 17-9 win over the Giants, and they were fortunate to clear by 8. And Goff at Cooper Kupp for a big score, 55-yarder with 7 minutes left. They managed 240 total yards and went 45 minutes between touchdowns. Goff goes 25 of 32 for 200 yards. They had racked up at least 400 yards in every game. Well, 3 in each of their first 3 games. And also, interesting stat, they're 28-0 when leading at halftime under McVay. That's extremely impressive. McVay says Akers will be back in the lineup Sunday, so expect Akers there. And then rookie safety Jordan Fuller didn't play last week because of a shoulder injury. He's still questionable. And Micah Kaiser, their linebacker, got hurt in the third quarter, and is questionable. Redskins coming off 31-17 loss at home to the Ravens. And it was, Bebsy and I had action. I was a little heavier on it. I had Ravens first quarter, first half. And Bebsy had that team total over 14.5 at plus 100, and that had gone up to 16.5 by kickoff, and that was juiced to the over by that point.
I really thought that was my second easiest play of the week last week, and even when they didn't cover the first half, I was like, well, the second half's going to be a blowout, so at least I'll get a split on this. And then they shit the bed royally. They shit the bed in a win against an awful team at home. I lost a lot of faith in the Rams this week. Or, maybe they were just cruising because they knew it was a garbage team they were facing. But I lost. God damn it, I hate the Rams right now.
It's the reason why the NFL makes so much money. We had bought into what we were seeing and what we were seeing from the Giants. But let me go back to the Redskins here. I thought. And if you break down the
Washington
stats,
football team, Jimmy, the Washington football
team. Thank you. If you break down the stats, which is what I do to prepare for each show, Washington had more first downs, 7 fewer yards than the Ravens. It was just that Lamar made some giant plays. It was the Ravens made the big plays when they needed to. And I was fortunate to hit that first quarter. I was fortunate. There was 2.5 minutes left. It was a 0-0 game. Haskins goes 32 for 45 for 314 yards, career high 314 yards. Chase Young didn't play. Are these Redskins? I think they deserve more respect. I think there might be value with the Redskins here. Prince of the City, enjoy the basketball game. Thank you so much for joining us, my friend. And that's clearly why it's gone from 9 to 7. What do you think of the Redskins at home here?
I mean, I'm kind of with you on this one. I believe games are won and lost in the trenches, and I think, I've said this week after week, the Washington front seven gives me reason to believe in Washington. Don't believe offense. I don't believe in their secondary, but that front seven, even without their Chase Young, they still managed to put pressure on Lamar, managed to play football. It's really hard to bet on them. not super into it.
All right, Bebsy, we're kind of cutting in and out. I'm going to pull you out and bring you back in very quickly. But the gist of what you were saying here is, I don't know. Why don't you break that down a little bit more? You're kind of cutting in and out.
Oh no, I was just saying I want to fade the Rams so bad because of how averagely they performed against the Giants last week. But I also just I do have a ton of faith in that Washington front seven. Even without Chase Young, they played great. They managed to somewhat hem in Lamar Jackson, and then he gets away and he's an absolute stud. So then he blows up on it. But look, this is a hard play for me because the Washington football team is so bad, and the Giants, the Rams just had a mediocre performance against the Giants. So I'm worried about recency bias creeping in here. All I want to do is fade the Rams because I hate them right now. But at the same time, they should, the way they're playing every other game up until this week, they should be able to make this cover.
Agreed. And missing out on the 9 might keep me off of it. But
yeah, I mean that was the play to jump in on.
Birdie has an important point. Says, how can you be a player on this Washington team and not show up when your coach is literally dying on the sidelines and is showing up? Guy having to sit down in timeouts and between plays for the first time in his whole career. Birdie's saying 3 weeks of East Coast travel in 4 weeks. This is Redskins or no bet, but I think it's important to acknowledge that we just lost. I lost. Oh no, we did the same. We had the same. We both doubled up on the Rams and lost, and that could be jarring our judgment here.
This was the difference of me having a 6-0 week versus a 4-2 week. I hate the Rams right now, and I don't want to let myself go on tilt here just because of how I feel about the Rams.
No, I feel you.
In my opinion, it's Washington or bust here, but I don't know if I'm comfortable enough to make a play.
Let me see if I can switch you out. You've gotten very blurry. See if I can switch you out, switch you in, get you non-blurry. Still blurry. Okay, well, you're blurry. Oh, there you go. We're back in action. Okay. What do you think of this total, Bebsy? This total here opens at 46, now 45.5 for 45.
If anything, I see a low-scoring affair here. I don't have a ton of faith in this Rams team putting up points, especially after how mediocre they looked in this past week. But I also got to hope that the Rams or the Washington football team doesn't start matching them. This is set at an ugly spot for me.
I think the public will come in late, bet the Rams. I'm not going to take it's 7 at Bet365 at minus 105. That's not enough for me. But if the public comes in and starts betting the Rams, I will make a move. Alrighty.
Yeah, it opened. I mean, it's already come down so much, but I do believe that the public will shift that back towards where it opened.
Okay. Let's move on to Bengals, Ravens. Bengals, Ravens, Cincinnati coming off a big win. And thank you, Birdie and everybody in the chat, for making sure that I didn't bet the Jags when I wanted to. Houston opens up at Bengals, Ravens. I'm looking at this Houston line. Sorry, it's so watching the Jags not win that game is shocking. And they put up those numbers, but let's talk Bengals, Ravens first. Ravens open up at minus 13.5. They're still there. There are a couple books that brought it to 12 or 12.5. Others at 13 or 13.5. This total is either at 51 or 51.5. Cash action bet says Bengals and under. Bengals coming off 33-25 win at home. Burrow becomes the first rookie in NFL history to throw over 300 yards 3 consecutive games. 25 of 36 for 300 yards and a touchdown to Mixon. Mixon went to the hospital on Saturday with chest and difficulty breathing, and rushes for 151 yards on 25 carries, 2 touchdowns. Very impressive. The Bengals rolled up 505 yards of offense. Now, they still have injuries. Atkins is still hurt. Linebacker Logan Wilson, cornerback Mackenzie Alexander, defensive tackle Atkins, all questionable. And A.J. Green hurt his wrist and didn't return. Ravens, we just talked about that Redskins game. They just made all the big plays. It was a professional win. It wasn't like they soundly beat the Washington Football Club, because they didn't really. Lamar goes 14 of 21 for 193 yards, runs 7 times for 53 yards. Humphrey signs that 5-year $100 million or $98 million contract and forces a fumble and looks so good. 17th straight game in which Baltimore forced at least 1 turnover. Wide receiver Chris Moore, offensive tackle Ronnie Stanley, defensive end Derek Wolfe, and defensive tackle Justin Madubuike are all questionable. Should the Ravens be this big of a favorite in this divisional battle, Bebsy?
It's too many points for a divisional battle for me to jump on and get excited about. I'm kind of with you in the sense that it feels like the books are screaming at you to throw money on the Bengals here. I don't know what to believe right now out of the Bengals. They've hung tough in certain games. They had a nice backdoor cover against Cleveland. I don't like this. I don't like this game at all. I can't bet on a bad team, and the only team I want to bet on right now is the Bengals. They're so outmatched in this game. But again, it's kind of like the Chiefs in the sense that they could go up early, full throttle, and destroy this team, and then the Bengals come back and get a backdoor cover late in the game. I just don't like it one bit. I don't think it's going to be like week 1 when the Ravens trounced the Browns, but it's just too many points. It's too many points for me to take the Ravens, and it's too bad of a football team in the Bengals for me to get excited about betting on.
Who are the Ravens? Because they look very bad against the Chiefs, and that was an underwhelming victory over Washington.
The Ravens are a team that is very good, and they can just pound the piss out of bad teams. But much like the playoffs in the last 2 years, they bogged down against good teams. They looked bad against the Chiefs because the Chiefs are a good team. And this is sort of, been the stable for Greg Roman's entire career. Offensively, when he's up against a better opponent, he gets too conservative. He boxes himself in, and he looks bad. He has looked like a terrible offensive coordinator in both his playoff games. He looked terrible as an offensive coordinator in his playoff games with the Bills and the Niners. And, the playoff games, it just means you're playing a better team. Never mind the playoffs. Everybody gets up for every week. You're just playing a better team, and he plays too conservative against those teams. So they're a team that can beat up on bad teams, and they're not going to play very well against good teams, which is, I don't know, it feels like an oversimplification to say, but that's exactly how I feel about this team. They're very talented. They're well coached as far as a head coach goes. It's just Greg Roman against great or even very good defenses sort of boxes himself in.
Do we have any idea if Geno Atkins could come back? Love to have
Who
him.
knows? Is he doubtful or questionable?
He's questionable, but I think this is
Nilo's got a decent look at the Baltimore first half.
Okay, so if the Bengals played the Washington Football Club right now, and there was neutral site, and there was no spread, it was even money each way, who do you bet on?
Sorry, you're cutting out a bit there. What was
If
that?
the Bengals,
that
if the
question?
Bengals played the Washington Football Club right now on a neutral site, and it was even money each way, who would you bet on?
Probably Washington, just based on better trench play. I think that's a team that can swallow up a rookie quarterback, and that's, I think, the biggest problem for the Bengals right now is, especially with Atkins out, they don't have very many difference makers on the offensive or defensive line.
I think this is too many points, and
It's a lot of points. You're right. This is the books.
All right, we will. Nilo says more weapons. Haskins isn't there. Birdie says it is too many points. All right, I'm close to making a move on the Bengals, but I don't want to just sit here and hum and haw. Cash action is on the Bengals and the under. And then Birdie says way too many points. Why though? Expecting the books to always win, and they're feeding us this 13. What do you think of this total, Bebsy, in this spot, sitting at 51? 51.
I don't know. To me, it feels high. Then again, I like that ability for the backdoor cover with a team that's not afraid to have their rookie quarterback throw 60 times in a game. I think Nilo's onto something here. The smartest play here is the first half.
Well, I will offer you. This is a Bengals or no play for me. But I will give you an offer here on the licensed American books here for Ravens first half and minus 7.5 and minus 114 at Bet Rivers. And let's see what Bet365 is offering you. Imagine it'll be better than that. Yes, much better. Minus 7 and minus 105. You want
it? Yeah, I can take minus that and sit on that comfortably. Kind of I just don't like a complete game here.
Let me just pull you out and bring you back in. It's kind of a.
You know what? I'm going to reset it.
The computer? Okay.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna unplug my modem because it's obviously being too much of a problem. So let me do that. Back in.
Okay, cool. Yeah, bounce out, and bounce back in. All right, cool. Alrighty. So Ravens minus 7 and minus 105. I will bring that back up to Bebsy to see if he wants to pull the trigger. But Mr. Funmug says you eked out that Baltimore first half total last week in the last 2 minutes. He did, yeah. I eked out that first quarter. I mean, I didn't eke it out. I mean, they ended up covering it by 4 points because I had the minus 3. They got the minus 7, but it was fortunate. It was 2.5 minutes left, and Washington had the football, and it was in Washington's end, but it was a pick and then a bomb down the sidelines, like a 39-yard pass to get us in action, and I was fortunate. Bengals plus 13 seems like a play that I would like to make. My pleasure, Justin Betts. But again, I really feel like we were sort of fortunate there, and the stats showed that the Ravens just made the big plays when they needed to make them. All right, Bebsy back in action. Let me pull him back in and pull him back out, see if we can get him clear. Can't seem to get him clear. Close. We're getting closer. Bebsy, did you want to pull the trigger on that +7 or -7? Excuse me, -105 first half.
Yeah, Baltimore -7 first half. I'm pretty comfortable with that play.
All right, let's lock that in. I'll pull Bebsy out for a little bit. See, it looks so clear on my computer. It's a little touch and go there. Okay, I'm gonna lock Bebsy in. Bebsy -7, -105. I can't seem to get him right. Close. We're so close. It's a little better now. Okay, let's move on to the next spot. Next up, Jaguars, Texans. Jaguars, Texans. The 1-3 Jags going to the 0-4 Texans, and the Bill O'Brien era finally ends. Finally ends. And good thing. And it has to be the Hopkins trade that was just like, come on. Just because you don't like the guy, you don't have to like everybody. Stop trying to make friends. Coach a football team and manage it appropriately. Jags, Texans, we are getting Houston opening up at -7. That's down to -6 across the board. There is 6.5 at plus money. This total sitting at 54. Minshew goes 27 for 40 for 351 yards and 2 touchdowns, and they lose easily. They handily. They got beaten badly by Cincinnati, and he goes for 351 yards. James Robinson runs 17 times for 75 yards. Shark, 8 catches for 95 yards. Chanot, 5 catches for 86 yards. But their defense allows 505 yards. Awful. Cornerback C.J. Henderson leaves the game in the first half with a shoulder injury, doesn't return. Jack leaves with an ankle injury in the first half, ruled out. Eifert, concussion. Hayden, their cornerback, left the second half and didn't return. Offensive tackle Cam Robinson out with a knee injury, but the MRI came back negative. Center Brandon Linder is questionable. And we have Houston's NFL worst run defense, giving up 162 yards. I mean, Dalvin Cook is mighty, but still, it just can't stop anything. Watson throws for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. Fuller, 108 yards and a touchdown. David Johnson runs 16 times for 63 yards. And then tight end Akins, concussion. You have Peter Kalambayi, the linebacker, hurt. Colin Gillespie hurt, their fullback. Not a ton of injuries. Jaguars, Texans, Bill O'Brien period over. Do you think Houston shows how much they hated him by stepping up this week?
I think there's a chance. There is a very good chance that they step up with him out this week. I think, man, they had to have hated him so much that it's such an ignorant move to trade away a player of that caliber just because you don't like him. Like, get your shit together. Stop being a baby. Act like an adult. Sort that out and keep Hopkins. And if you are going to move him, get something in return. Bill O'Brien has left this team in shambles. They've got no picks for next year. They're up against the cap, and they just don't have the talent to. Any other team that's this hard up against the cap shouldn't be 0-4. So, yeah, I'd like to think this team can rally and actually play. I feel like there's a chance that they were just playing, consciously or subconsciously, playing to get him fired. Now, I don't know if Romeo Crennel is going to be the answer. I hear players like him, but it's not like he did well as a head coach in Cleveland. So it's a sit back and watch play for me. It's tempting to take the Jags and the points here just because I've loved the Jags being dogs this year. It's just we don't know what to expect right now out of Houston. There could be a big turnaround point for them, or they could continue to be terrible all year. I'm not really sure.
I think, and I agree with Dan, that Romeo Crennel is a guy I believe in and trust. And look at this situation that Bet365 is offering. I'm going to take this. There's no doubt in my mind. -3 first half, -115. Why not? I mean, it was very interesting hearing the players talk. And by players, I mean JJ and Deshaun. They both were like, I'm not going to let this get in the way. And what was this? They kept saying, they're being vague. They were like, I'm going to come to the field and I'm going to do my best to succeed. They're making these statements that I'm not going to let something get in the way of us fighting the good fight. And what they were saying was, I'm not going to let this asshole Bill O'Brien, who's been ruining us for 6 years, stop me from coming to the field with fight and joy and trying to get wins for this football club. So Texans first half -3 and -115. I love it. I'm in. And then from a total perspective, Bebsy, first half is at 27 and the full game is at 54 or 54.5. Is this too tricky of to forecast the final score because of the coaching change?
Yeah, I think so. But then again, we've established time and again that I'm a coward and a conservative bettor, and you like to play fast and loose. You're a wild man, and I respect that about you. But for me, it's a sit back and watch how this Texans team responds. Like, to me, with Crennel at the helm, this is a whole new Texans team. I still think they're in a world of trouble, and I do not envy anybody who's coaching for them or gets into that GM role, because as soon as you get in there, the first thing you got to do is find out a way to get some picks back, find out a way to get some youth into that locker room. That I don't know. It's an ugly position for me. I'm not interested at all. It's a sit back and watch. I admire that you want to jump on something here, but yes, Mr. Fun, I am a coward and I will not be pushed around. But there's no play for me, Jimmy, and I respect and love that you're jumping on this. But I gotta sit back and watch and just see how much this Texans team. I believe they'll be better, because I said from the start of the year this team is not going to play for Bill O'Brien, and they did not. But this week, I'm going to sit back and see what Romeo does. I like Romeo. I want him to succeed. I hope he does well.
I like this look a lot. Mr. saying both teams, a lot of players on the injury report. The injury report I looked at, the Texans, was pretty clean. Pretty clean. I mean, they don't have that as an excuse. I love it. This is I'll look at everything again, but I love this Texans first half. -3. All right, those are the 1 o'clock games. Let's move on to the 4 o'clock games. We're going to start with Dolphins Niners, 4:05 p.m. Eastern. This pops off, and let's see what we are being dealt with. Frisco opening up at -8 or 8.5, and no total available. Let's see if I can get a total anywhere else. Just go to these licensed books and see if they're going to give us a.
Garoppolo's a big question mark this week. That's why you're probably not going to get a total until you find out if he's playing.
And my instinct, there's no total anyway. I think he's going to play.
I do too. They even said last week there was a chance he could play, but because Mullins played so well against the Giants, they're like, no, it's not a big deal if he doesn't. Well, that bit them in the ass pretty hard.
Yeah, and Birdie talked about, second game off of a major injury, or not major injury like season ending, but major to your team. Okay, Dolphins coming off 31-23 loss at home to the Seahawks. And I was pretty upset about Flores. I think that when you're playing a team like the Seahawks and you're in the red zone and it's 4th and 3, I think the numbers have told us the Seahawks are going to put up a certain amount of points. And their defense is not very good. And you have to go for 6. You have to put your balls on the table and be a man. And it's the first time where I've really been quite upset and been certain that Flores was wrong. It's the first time, and I like him, but come on. Cornerback Byron Jones, safety Kevon Frazier, defensive end Shaq Lawson, questionable. Flores said that Lawson is expected to be good, so Flores expects him to be in the lineup. Fitzy goes 29-45, 315 yards, but threw 2 picks. He rushed for a touchdown. He was their leading rusher. There's something about when you are the coach and you say, look, I believe in this offense. And you're not always going to be right. But if you're right in those situations 56% of the time, then you're going to succeed more than if you're this passive-aggressive little bitch that Flores was by not going for it. It really upset me. Niners are coming off their first loss of the season, 25-20 at home to the Eagles. Mullins goes 18 for 26.
Second loss.
Oh, sorry.
Second loss.
Yeah, because they're 0-2 at home. I don't know why
they're 0-2 at home.
Mullins, 18 for 26, 200 yards, was replaced by Beathard. Mullins, 3 turnovers. It did not look good. Kittle goes 15 for 183 yards. Zeke Ansah leaves the game in the first half with a biceps injury. Is that season ending?
Yeah, he's done. And on top of it, K'Wan Williams is on the IR now. So the Niners are, if you're keeping score at home, out. Richard Sherman, they're saying he's not going to play. K'Wan Williams, who is an incredibly underrated slot corner, he is out. Witherspoon and Mosley are still questionable, as is Dante Johnson. I don't know who's going to play corner for the Niners right now, let alone quarterback.
So, okay, let's talk about 2 different possibilities. The first one, okay, if Jimmy G doesn't come back, who starts at quarterback in your estimation?
I don't know how you put Nick Mullins back in after that performance. He lost that game. The O-line didn't give him any help. He was pressured all game. But that pick 6 he threw, if you were watching that, he had a clean pocket, and he threw it directly at I forget his name. He's the guy who used to play in the CFL. That long-haired hippie-looking fella on the he's like Philly's like 4th-string running or middle linebacker. He threw it right into his chest. There wasn't even a receiver in the area. It's maybe the worst pass I've ever seen in the NFL. So I can't see Mullins playing again this week, especially because, of course, Beathard's coming in against a prevent defense, so he could move the ball. But man, was Mullins just terrible this week.
So do you think the move is, if Jimmy G's in, to make a move on the Dolphins? Because you'll get a better line than the 7.5 or 8 that is possibly available at some offshores right now?
I think there is no play. Yes, if there is a play, that's it. But I really think Jimmy G plays because this is a crucial game. Now the Niners are not staring at winning this division. They're staring at getting some parts back and maybe getting into a wild card position. But I think they rushed Jimmy G back. I think, especially given the fact that he was questionable last week, that he comes in. But there's so many question marks with this Niners team right now. There's just so many guys that are on injured reserve or they're questionable for this week. Shanahan said with Sherman coming off IR, he's probably not going to play. He also said Mostert probably isn't going to play. Now, the other factor in this game was if Philly has something that's going for them, it's their defensive line. They have a lot of talent on the defensive line, and they gave a ton of problems to this Niners offensive line, which is one of the healthier groups as far as their injury list goes. And they played terrible. They collapsed. Even Trent Williams, who is an absolute beast, had the worst game I've ever seen him play. So I think the Niners are going to tough out a win here. I think if there is a play, it's Miami. I don't think you play this game. I think you just stay far, far away from it.
Well, if there's a bunch of books that have put up 8.5 points on the board. I mean,
I was amazed that it opened at that, especially with the uncertainty at quarterback. You know, one of the biggest things about – because Philadelphia was injured last week too. And, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, well, Niners are missing all these guys. And then people are like, well, Philly's missing all these guys. But Philly had their starting quarterback, and that ended up being the difference in this game. It was an ugly game. It was a game the Niners should have rolled in, and they clearly didn't. They came out flat. Nick Mullins played just atrociously. The offensive line didn't give him any help. The Niners offensive line did not create any pressure, but there's just so many injuries on both of those teams. It's hard to guess.
I agree with the guys. Miami or no play, and I would like Miami at 8.5 points. I do not think that's going to be widely available. And if Jimmy G comes in, I don't even see how we could get more than that. If Jimmy G comes in, is there a 9 available? I'd be surprised. And I guess we can't really make sound calls on the total until we know who is going to be behind center.
For all the noise that surrounds Jimmy G about, you know, being a system quarterback, that the only reason he looks good ever is because of Shanahan's system. Well, Shanahan is 22-7 with Jimmy G at quarterback, and 5-20 over the same stretch when he's out. How can you look at that number and continue to argue that point?
Oh, I've never hated on Jimmy G, and I believe in the guy. Alrighty, Dolphins, Niners. But in saying that, at this point, I don't really care who's the quarterback. I think the Dolphins are the play.
Well, it's Dolphins or nothing for me, but I do believe that if Jimmy comes back in, you could see a bit of a rallying cry with them. Sure. Look, even a backup Niners team is still a good team, but they need to start getting some reinforcements, and some of them could come this week. I'm thinking next week and going into that real tough part of their schedule, they will start getting most of them back. But, you know, you've got a lot of important guys out for a long time.
Well, that's the 405 game. Let's move on to the 425 games. We got a couple of them here. We're going to start with Colts, Browns. An easy win for us backing the Browns this past week. Would have loved to have had the balls to take them money line, which I sadly did not. Total opens up at 47. That's where it is right now. One book's moved it to 46.5. Colts open up at -1. They're now -1.5. This is a very interesting game with two contrasting styles. Colts have the number 1 ranked defense in the league, sitting 3-1. That strange loss against the Jags in week 1. They bring in DeForest Buckner and Xavier Rhodes, two vets that come in and just really help, in enormous ways. Rivers is playing simple, and he's not risking too much. 16 of 29 for 190 yards, 1 TD, 0 picks. Jonathan Taylor, 17 runs for 68 yards. He's not being great, but he's a young guy who's able to keep pounding the ball and doesn't seem to get tired and doesn't seem to break down. I know it's very early in his career, but having a 21-year-old running back, I think is a good thing. You can give him the rock over and over and over again. T.Y. Hilton, Bebsy, his grandma says you don't look like yourself, and nothing has changed. 3 catches for 29 yards. Zach Pascal led the Colts in receiving. And no Darius Leonard leaves with a groin injury in the second half of that game, so he's questionable. And he's needed. Mayfield, 2 touchdowns. Garrett, strip sack for the 3rd straight game. The Browns ran for 307 yards and 3 TDs despite losing Nick Chubb. mean, it's crazy what they did to the Cowboys. And as we said, they're getting healthier. Still missing Greedy Williams, Claiborne, Tay Davis, and Larry Ogunjobi are all questionable this week. But two contrasting styles, a very difficult game to cap. And I'm more interested in handling the total at 47, really, than I am a side at this point. I can't wait to hear your breakdown. One of the most interesting games of the week, Colts-Browns.
Well, this game is getting more interesting because the line is moving in favor of Cleveland because money's coming in on Cleveland, and I personally think it should right now. I agree with what Bertie just said. It's a horrible spot for the Browns. They just won this big game, this big emotional game in Dallas. Bit of a letdown, but both of these teams are very interesting in that they're the two teams that I have said need to rely on their running game and let their quarterback just not screw up. Now, the Browns took a huge hit to their running game when Chubb went down, but they were still doing great without him. So the Cleveland's offensive line is obviously, and their scheme is obviously a very important part of this. To me, this is a really difficult play because with Leonard out, I want to lean towards Cleveland, but with Cleveland coming off that big win, I want to lean towards Indy. If this was a pick 'em, I'd have just as difficult a time. So I don't know. I don't know what the play is here. It feels like they figured out that Rivers is old and terrible, and all they have to do is get him to manage. But this is a difficult play here. On one hand, the Browns are at home. On the other hand, the T.Y. Hilton's playing like garbage. So this is a really difficult call for me.
I think that public is going to keep pounding the Browns, and the Colts are just going to become more and more appealing as this week moves on. So
it's hard to take with Leonard out and Malik Hooker out. That very talented Colts defense takes a big hit.
Yeah.
So the Leonard factor is huge, and I do think with Cleveland, like you saw Ward come in and he didn't play exceptional, but he sealed the game on that pick. So, like these playmakers, whether they're a major impact through the whole game or not, that's what you count on in the crunch time. These guys to make big plays. So, with Leonard out, it's hard to back them because he's such an important piece, and he is one of those guys who makes plays all game. He is special all game long. And Myles Garrett, he's playing out of his mind right now. I want to back a Myles Garrett team because that guy's playing sensational. He's playing Defensive Player of the Year football, through the first 4 weeks. So this is a hard play. And no, Randy Brand is saying, how can you ever trust Mayfield? Well, I feel the exact same way about Rivers. I don't trust either one of them. That's the problem. There's things I love and hate about both of these teams. There's things I love and hate about both of these team situations. So this is a very difficult spot. I admire anybody who's got the balls to make a hard line choice on this game.
Yeah, agreed. That total I find appealing of 47 towards the under because I think the Colts will dictate the style of play, even without Darius Leonard, that the Browns will realize this Colts team's not taking chances, and we don't have to either. We just need to move the ball. 47 might be too many points. What do you think of the total?
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning in your direction here. I do think it could be too many points just because exactly what I just said about both of these quarterbacks. This could be a control game where you just look at two teams that try and run the ball and not make mistakes. Could be a war of attrition on Sunday between these two guys.
And again, we do the weather forecast on Sunday and not Tuesday just because it changes. Like if I had given you the weather on Tuesday for the Buccaneers game, it was showers through the whole game, and it was a beautiful day where offense took over. But the weather is generally beautiful.
Yeah,
Sunday.
Tuesday's way too early to care about weather.
But the weather looks really nice in these spots and low wind and really nice. Alrighty, no move. Colts, Browns. Let's move on to Giants, Cowboys. And Giants fought hard in that 17-9 loss at the Rams. They fought hard. Dallas opens up at -9, and they're taking money. It's now 10 at most books. This total sitting at 54. Danny Dimes throws for 190 yards, rushes for 45 yards. Giants haven't scored a touchdown in 2 games. This is, it's really interesting, these 2 spots, Colts, Browns, and Giants, Cowboys, because you have just such contrasting styles right now. The Giants finally got a little more out of their running game. So Gallman goes 6 for 49, Freeman 11 for 33. Freeman also catches for 4 passes for 35 yards. Lewis 1 rush for 10 yards. But you tie that in with DJ, and they ran for a nice amount. Slayton led all receivers, 3 catches for 48 yards. They're just getting nothing. Ingram, 6 catches for 35 yards. And they're dealing with injuries, and the O'Shane Zimenez injury is going to hurt them, that linebacker. And also Kyler Fackrell, neck injury, Zimenez shoulder injury. And then they lose defensive back Adrian Colbert in the 4th quarter to a neck injury. Safeties, Colbert is questionable, and at one point I thought he was unlikely, but he's questionable. They have 2 safeties hurt. So they're dealing with injuries. Then we come to this Cowboys team. Prescott throws for 502 yards. 502 yards, 4 touchdowns, becomes the first NFL quarterback with at least 450 yards passing in 3 straight games. And we're talking about the 1-3 Cowboys. They can't get stops. Dallas has lost the first of 3 straight home games. And I don't know. It's very tough to trust them. Amari Cooper, 12 catches for 134 yards. CeeDee Lamb, first 2 touchdown passes. Cleveland puts 307 yards rushing against them. That's the most Cowboys have ever allowed, ever. Dallas is the first team since Oakland in 2012 to allow at least 38 points in 3 straight games. They lose their center, Joe Looney, with the MCL sprain. Dalton Schultz has a thigh injury, but we've talked about their injuries with Van Der Esch and Sean Lee and stuff like that, but they're not getting a ton of new injuries. Giants, Cowboys, Bebsy, take it away.
Well, can we stop heaping praise on Dallas? They've put up points against weak or injured defenses. They haven't stopped any offensive team. Yet week after week, they're like, oh, this is a good football team. No, they're not. Dallas is a bad football team. At best, they're an 8-8 team. They started out 1-3. Let's face it, they shouldn't have won that Falcons game. This should be an 0-4 team that is only slightly better than the Giants. So, yeah, the Giants haven't scored a touchdown in 2 games. They're going to score a touchdown in this game. The Cowboys have 0 defense. Again, I said this last week. I'm gonna repeat it until somebody proves me wrong. The best defensive player on their team is a guy who hasn't played in 5 years. The Cleveland Browns did whatever they wanted to this defense and then took the foot off the gas, let them back in the game, and then shut it down. So again, this is just a love affair with the Dallas Cowboys that people want to keep propping them up like they're better than they are. They're not. This is not a good football team. Now, it just so happens the Giants are even fucking worse. So this is just an awful football game. I don't have much interest in it other than the fact that, Dak's going to throw up a bunch of points. And then Danny Dimes is going to have to respond, and I don't know if he's going to be able to respond. I think, if anything, the over is in play. But how can you bet the over when you're betting on a team that hasn't scored a touchdown in 2 weeks? This is just an ugly, shitty game that I think they should just cancel. They should, they should cancel that division entirely. I am so sick of them. When have they been good? When's the last time that division was legitimately relevant? Even the year that Philadelphia won the Super Bowl, the division sucked.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of them showing up. I don't know. I'm off this game. I hate it.
It's tricky. I think Aaron came in and said, "What do you guys think about Washington and the Rams?" And I was like, "Well, that's a tricky game." But the Colts, Browns, and Giants, Cowboys are just such contrasting styles that I'm very hesitant to even. I look at the 54 and I think, well, the Giants are going to put up that many points, but maybe this is what they need so badly. Go up against this terrible, terrible Cowboy defense, and then start rolling.
They're gonna break this touchdown streak. They will get it, but this division has been appalling for 2 decades. Like just cancel the NFC East until they get their shit together. They should the football needs relegation, like European soccer has. Like they like the Premier League relegation, and we can just do away with this division and fuck America's team for a couple of years. When's the last time they were America's team? They've won 1 playoff game in 20 some odd years.
I like it. Fun breakdown. So we have no moves on these very interesting games, but we have a Sunday show at 11 a.m. and we're able to tweet out any official plays that we want. And our Bebsy, 17-6, 73.9%, up 9.88 units, ROI 42.96%, coming off a 4-2 week, up 1.55 units on this young season. All right, let's move on from that and see if there are more moves to make. We move on to – are we on the late? No, we're not quite on the late game yet. We have Broncos, Pats next. Broncos coming off their first win of the season. And the line is out now. There is a couple -10s, but mostly -11s for the Patriots against these Broncos. Broncos coming off their first win of the season. By the way, there's no total out at this point. And Chubb, 2.5 sacks. Broncos had 6 in total. Rippon was just a roller coaster ride and got the win. 19-31, 242 yards, 2 TDs, 3 picks. Melvin Gordon stepped up for the first time in a long time. 107 yards on 23 carries. Tim Patrick, 6 catches for 113 yards. Drew Lock is questionable, and some have said unlikely, depending on where you're looking. KJ Hamler left with a hamstring injury. Noah Fant was carted off with an ankle injury. In the third quarter, it looked like it might be really bad. It's not really bad. He's week to week. Unlikely here. Lindsey remains questionable. Cornerback Devontae Harris and Jeremiah Atauchu are questionable. Patriots are dealing with this Cam Newton COVID test. But if you're looking at what the line is at, then I guess he's good to go. We don't have that confirmation. But if there's a book willing to put out, and there's a few of them, willing to put out Patriots at -11, I mean, that tells you that he's good to go. They played hard, and they were in that 26-10 loss at KC. Hoyer's now lost 11 straight starts for 3 different teams, 15-24 for 130 yards and a pick. Stidham came in and was Stidham through 2 picks but could move the ball. One of those picks was a pick 6 by Honey Badger. Damian Harris runs 17 times for 100 yards. Rex Burkhead 11 times for 45 yards. James White comes back after the death of his father, 3 times for 21 yards, caught 7 passes for 38 yards. That Damian Harris, Burkhead, and James White is a 3-headed monster. Damian Bird.
That pick 6 was not on Stidham. That pick 6 was a terrible misplay from Edelman. That's not on Stidham.
That's fair. Damian Bird, 5 catches for 80 yards. Sony Michel on the IR. Imagine this 3-headed monster without Sony Michel. They're missing guards with non-COVID related ailments. All these are non-COVID related ailments. Shaq Mason and Uliminor are questionable right now. And Mr. Funmonk says, Belichick off a loss always scares me. I thought they were very impressive, and Belichick did a great job against the Chiefs. Broncos, Patriots. How could the Pats be -11 here? What do you think here, Bebsy?
Well, I think Pats -11 with Cam at the helm is a good play. That's a big question mark. I thought Stidham looked better than the numbers and the results suggested, and a lot of it had to do with Edelman giving that touchdown to Honey Badgers. So if Cam's not playing, it's Stidham over Hoyer for sure. But this spot, I agree with Funmonk. I agree with Belichick coming off a hard loss, especially one that, they were expected to lose that game. It wound up being a little uglier than expected, but it's hard to cap this game without knowing what's going to happen with Cam. Is he playing? Is he not? What's he going to be wearing? I don't know. See that weird picture of him? It looks like he's on like a train to God knows where, like somewhere in Europe, and he's wearing some. I don't know. I really don't know. It's a game I'm going to have trouble capping without knowing who's playing quarterback for the New England Patriots.
I'm not making this bet because I think that Cam's going to be out, and it's not available at Bet365. Let's see if any of the other licensed books are making it available. They're not. But if I can get, as soon as it comes on the board, I think Birdie has this perfect. You take the Broncos at this big price, plus 10 or 11, and then if they announce Newton's in, I'd be shocked. If they announce that he's not in, then you buy back on the Pats at -7. It's perfect.
I mean, you've seems like you got it all figured out there, Jimmy.
It's just not available. But as soon as it becomes available where I can actually bet it, it's available in a few books I can't bet it at. Brady says Broncos have extra rest and Pats on a short week traveling to Denver. I'm going to, as soon as I can, I'm going to take the Broncos early and then figure out, throughout the rest of the week who's going to be playing quarterback for the Patriots and whether I could get a beautiful middle. And I don't know. I need to. There's more study needs to go in. Obviously, we've got a moving part with Newton and COVID. Gate Pass Key says he needs 14 days. He will not be playing. Gate Pass is right. As soon as I can bet the Broncos, I'm going to bet the Broncos. As soon as they announce it to the public that Cam's not going to be there, you can middle. Justin Betts says the under might be a good look depending on the number. You know what's funny, Justin, is that I want Patriots unders with Cam Newton. I don't want him with Stidham. I want him with Hoyer. But even that makes me uncomfortable. I want Cam Newton. I want them to be able to move the ball, run the ball. So I'm going to be hesitant to take unders when Cam Newton is an under center. All right, let's move to the Sunday night late game. Vikings, Seahawks, and the Seahawks just keep rolling. Seahawks opened up at -7.5 at plus 100. They're now at 7. There is a couple books hanging 7.5 at big plus lines, plus 113, plus 110. This total opened up at 58, is now at 57.5. Dalvin Cook, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns versus the Vikes. They beat Houston for the Vikes. They beat Houston 31-23. Cousins goes for 260 yards and a TD. Thielen, 8 receptions for 114 yards. Justin Jefferson, 4 catches for 103 yards. Second straight 100-yard game. Helping you forget about Stephon Diggs if you're a Vikings fan. Mike Hughes and Chris Boyd, cornerbacks, are questionable. Seahawks coming off that 31-23 win at Miami. Wilson for 360 yards, 2 touchdowns. 24 of 34. He ties Peyton Manning for 16 touchdown passes in his first 4 games. They've scored 30 or more points in 4 consecutive games. DK Metcalf, 4 catches for 106 yards, more 3 for 95. Chris Carson back, looking good. There was a lot of concern over that knee injury. 80 yards with a pair of touchdowns. They do have injuries on defense, real injuries that are so that I was shocked that Fitzy couldn't take more advantage of. Cornerbacks Nico Thorpe and Quentin Dunbar are questionable. Safeties Lano Hill and Jamal Adams are as well. Jordan Brooks, linebacker, out. Carlos Hyde, questionable. Vikings, Seahawks, Bebsy, take it away.
Am I crazy to want to fade the Seahawks here? Like, it just feels like it's a fair amount of points for a team that has obviously for the last 2 weeks been able to put up numbers, and Seattle has not yet once shown me their defense can stop anything. So I wonder if you can get Minnesota to keep pace and have a backdoor cover here. There's no question mark about Seattle's offense. They're fantastic. Russ is fantastic. They were worried about injuries to the O-line and Carson last week. Carson played. The O-line held up. Doesn't matter. It's Russ. They're going to put up points. It's just the fact that this Seattle defense is atrocious. So I wonder if you can't get a little bit of a sneaky backdoor cover from Minnesota here. And Minnesota's defense is also terrible. So the over is still very much in play despite how high it is, especially in prime time. I like it, but I don't know. Am I crazy? Talk me in or out of this.
Scott John says, take Mini with the points, ride them. I like the look here. I think this look makes sense, but I thought that Seattle showed a ton of character what they did in Miami this past week. And I'm hesitant to go right back to the well and fade them again. But it just seems like this is Minnesota or no play. Sorry, what's up, Bibbs?
Well, it's just that you faded them against a team that doesn't put up points like Minnesota has in the last couple of weeks. Like, Minnesota's had weapons and they really struggled out the gate, but 2 weeks in a row they've been riding Cook, which is really what they have to do. Much like the Browns and much like the Colts, they have to ride their running game and then let Cousins, be smart about it. So it just feels like Minnesota is a nice play here.
I think Leonard Welch nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. What about the Vikings team total over at 23.5? Now, it's heavily juiced to the over right now, bet 365. I do not want to sit here with minus 138s, but there's a reason to me that this is heavily juiced to the over.
Okay, but are you suggesting taking that over?
Yes.
Well, if you're suggesting taking that the Vikings team total over, then you have to take the game total over, because if they're scoring 28.5, then you have to figure it's an easy cover for the team total over, because Seattle's probably going to win this game.
Seattle's team total is at 33.5.
Yes, but so what I'm saying is, if you're going to take the Vikings, if you want to bet the Vikings at 28.5.
23.5.
Oh, 23. I thought you said 28.
No.
That's a little bit different.
So 23.5?
I still think you can get to 60 points in this game.
I'll be right in there.
Yeah. 23.5? That sounds...
This is a bad Seattle defense. They're awful. And as soon as they come up against a balanced team, I think they come back down to earth a bit. I still think Seattle's very good this year and better than a lot of people expected, mainly because that offense is firing on all cylinders. But wait till they come up against a balanced team before we start anointing them, champions.
23.5 is just so gettable. This Vikings offense is pretty good. I know it looked bad early, but now that Justin Jefferson is rolling, Cousins getting a little bit of confidence. We know what Thielen does. We know what Dalvin Cook does.
Well, this is an offense that has to run through Dalvin Cook, and he's been sensational 2 weeks ago. Or 2 weeks in a row. I said he's not going to hit 181 again, and he didn't, but he still had an incredible performance.
How did the Vikings not get to 24 against the Seahawks defense? Come on. That's crazy. Am I wrong here to think that's nuts?
I do like the way you're leaning on this. It's hard. It's hard not to think they can do that, especially because they're probably going to be chasing. Seattle's going to score in their first possession and probably their second possession.
I don't have to do anything else. I don't need to bother taking the Vikings to cover.
No, this is a sexy little team total over here.
Dennis says if Seattle gets their defenders back, no chance of wanting to take any part.
What defenders, though? They're missing. Jamal Adams is the only playmaker they're missing.
Yeah, Jamal Adams is the only.
And Jamal Adams, for as great as he is, he's not worth 2 first-round picks. he is their best rusher, and he is a heck of a player, but
Yeah, he's a great player.
he's not a guy who can totally change the game. If he was, the Jets would have been better. The Jets wouldn't have let him out the door.
Yeah. Dan Kelly saying if the line is 7 and the total is 57.5, the implied team total is 25.5. Some talk of Al Serva coming in about the weather. Let me just grab it right now. 50% chance of rain. We know that changes drastically. The issue with this bet right now is that it's at minus 138. That sucks. But yeah, we have a 50% chance of precipitation, 11 mile per hour winds, showers. But if you start, then the showers are supposed to start at 1 o'clock. Well, you can't trust that. But it's supposed to be nice up until game time at this point. Yeah. How do you not take the 20? This is just too blatant. I'm going to take the Vikings team total over 23.5.
I'm going to join you on that, Jimmy. It just seems like too easy a play.
Now, the problem is the juice. Do you want to wait? Do you want to look? I wonder if I could. I need to pull up. See, because in Canada, it's tricky. These licensed American books we don't all get, but we get Bet365, which is hanging the 23.5 at minus 138. Is that juice too much for you?
I'm sorry. I'm just focusing on this weather talk. I don't know if we can make a play based on weather right now when it's too far out. The weather's going to change. Yeah, you got, northwestern United States that they get rain, but
Vikings 23.5 team total is it's crazy. And that's nuts.
It's too appealing considering just how many points the Seattle defense gives up.
Oh, my good God. This is crazy. The first half team total for the Vikings is 10.5. I mean, that's just I'm on that. I'm on both. 10.5 at minus 120. Are you kidding me? It's like I'm looking at something. Okay, this is the first time, and I know that there's a reason why these books are rich, but that's just absolutely crazy. 10.5 better be a monsoon for me not to. The first half team total for the Seahawks 16.5. All right, I'm doubling up. Bebsy, you just won on the full game team total over?
Yeah, I want the full game team total over. And the only reason I'm chickening out here is because the last time you and I doubled up in one game, we got smacked in the mouth. And at least I want you to be right or me to be wrong or me to be right and you to be wrong on this. But I'm going to sit on one, and I'm happy that you're taking both.
I am taking both. This is just gorgeous to me. And there's no possible way this is available come Sunday. Not a hope, not a chance. Alrighty, I'm doubling up. So I'm on the full game and 10.5 against the Seahawks. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And Dan Kelly with a great comment says, when you talk weather, you should only consider wind. Rain helps the offense more than the defense when there's no wind. People forget that. All right, we're moving on to the Monday Nighter, Chargers, Saints. And wow, has Herbert been spectacular. This total opens up at 52. It's now down to 50 at some books. There's 51s, there's 50.5s, and 50s. The Saints open up at minus 7.5. And now there are some 8s on the board, but mostly 7.5s. And let's just start. And I alluded to it early in the show. And it was Anthony Lynn's decision to hand the ball off on his own 9 with 47 seconds left when the Patriots have one timeout to a rookie who's already made one costly fumble. I wouldn't be able to handle that if I owned a team. And I don't know if I'd even be able to handle that if I was a big fan of a team. Because you're playing with fire. And I don't want some fucking pyro coaching my football team. You want to run into the locker room up 24/7, believing in yourself. Anthony Lynn's the reason why they lost that football game. And that mistake was so blatant to me. Like I was driving and listening to the game on the radio, and I just why are you going to give them any hope? And of course it ends up in your end zone. Just an asshole play decision by a coach that I've not been trusting. I've been trusting less and less. And my dad is a really big believer in him. And I've been trusting him less and less and less. And when he makes that kind of decision, you're not allowed to coach my football team. You're just all right. So Kelly fumbles the ball. I'm still beside myself. Let's go to Herbert, though. 20 of 25 for 290 yards, 3 touchdowns. Eckler left late in the first quarter with a hamstring injury, did not return. So Mike Williams, hamstring injury. You have 2 starting offensive linemen, Bulaga and Trey Turner, that did not play. And then you lose Storm Norton. So they have a bunch of injuries right now. Saints are coming off 35-29 win at Detroit, and this was so impressive to me. Everything was going against the Saints football team. I guess they didn't get any sleep because they had to keep getting tested. They played the game without 6 injured starters. They went down. They're on a 2-game losing streak. They went down big early, and I was extremely impressed with Breeze, even though he's a noodle arm, and all the things we've been saying about him are true. What you can't take away from Breeze is the leadership. What the Saints did by easily coming back was as impressive as a game that I've seen all year. No Lattimore, no Janoris Jenkins, no Andrews Pete, Ryan Ranchick, Michael Thomas out, Davenport, Jared Cook, and yet they come back. I can't say enough good things about the Saints, and I can't say enough bad things about Anthony Lynn. Chargers, Saints, Monday nighter. What do you think here, Bebsy?
You said a mouthful there, buddy. Man, it's hard to disagree with anything you said. I'm still with your dad in my support of Anthony Lynn, but it feels like he's better when they're playing from behind, and I don't mean in a game, I mean in a season. It feels like every year that he's been the coach, he's been garbage out the gates, and they don't start on time season-wise, not game-wise, and then towards the latter half of the season, he starts putting it together. So is this the week he starts putting it together? Is this the week where he starts being less conservative and making these moves? And who's still in and who's still out for the Saints? Is Michael Thomas has been questionable for a couple weeks in a row. Is he back? Is he playing? That's a huge factor. It's hard to bet on a rookie on the road on Monday night against a vet who's been there a million times, regardless of the fact that I still don't believe in Breeze or his arm this year. This is a tough spot for me to be interested in at all, because I think it's too many points to give the Saints, but I can't bet on a rookie quarterback in this situation.
Yeah, and Brady Tanglin said again he wants Taylor playing quarterback. It's just asinine.
If you put in Taylor at this point with how good Herbert has looked, then I'm officially with you, Jimmy, and Lynn gets fired at the end of the year. I don't think Lynn's going to get fired mid-season like I still believe Gase and Quinn will. But
when Anthony Lynn hands the ball off first and 10 on his own 9 with a 24-7 lead, 47 seconds left, and the opposing team has Tom Brady at quarterback, and they only have one timeout.
It was awful.
I was certain at that point that Anthony Lynn's not a gambler, because gamblers know that the worst case scenario can happen, and it happens. And Anthony Lynn must not gamble, because him making that decision, I'm still beside myself. I think that this is a spot where Herbert comes back to reality.
I think Herbert struggles a little bit in this game, but I think he's good. I think he's a good football player, and Sometimes you get quarterbacks who come out of college and they're surrounded by so much talent and they look like trash. You see it a lot with Alabama quarterbacks. This isn't a knock on Tua. We haven't seen him play yet. But a lot of the time with Alabama quarterbacks, there's so much talent around them. All they have to do is not fuck up. And then you see quarterbacks who come from different backgrounds, like Carson Wentz, for example. Say what you will, coming out of North Dakota State, nobody knew about him, and he was playing with trash. And then he got into the league, and prior to his injury, he was very good. Now, Herbert didn't have a ton of playmakers around him in Oregon. So maybe he's better than we think. Maybe he's better than we give him credit for. He threw some dimes under pressure last week that were truly impressive. To be honest with you, even though he lost and he didn't have as good of stats, I thought, and this isn't me being a dick right now towards Brady, I thought he played better than Brady last week. He certainly threw nicer balls. So I have faith in Herbert right now. I just don't know how much I trust him on Monday night against a vet. This is an experienced, talented Saints team. And it's too many points to give the Saints, but I can't bet on a rookie quarterback in this spot.
I wonder if the Saints early is the look. I think something happened this week. New Orleans.
Well, we've talked about this before. New Orleans has, over the last few years, they have started slow and then they turn it on and they become this unstoppable force. And a lot of that has to do with them being vets. This is a good football team that, okay, they didn't start on time, but they get it together. They're well coached. Much like Belichick's teams. How many times in the last 10 years have you said about Belichick, oh, they don't look great early in the year and the Pats have fallen off. And then he just, he gets it together. He figures out exactly what he's dealing with and they start kicking the shit out of everybody. Well, I don't think Peyton is that much different. I don't think he's on the Belichick level, but he's still a very good coach. And so they kind of settle into what works for them.
I wish that the Superdome was going to be filled and nuts.
But it's not. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's home field advantage. The only factor right now is travel. There isn't a crowd factor like there normally is. There's a weather factor to some degree, but it's just not the same. You have to. It's interesting because you have to pull that element out of it right now. The Seahawks and the Chiefs are two teams that have a massive advantage with home field because their stadium's so loud that opposing offenses can't get into a rhythm. It just doesn't exist this year.
Oh, man. I think that the Chargers on the second week on the road are going to get mauled by the Saints early, at least early. Second week on the road, going up against the Saints team that had such a difficult week and turned the corner. And I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. Early double up. -3 first quarter. And if they can keep doing it, then God bless them. But right now, I feel like there's too big an opportunity to fade a rookie quarterback on a giant Monday nighter on their second road game against the Saints team that turned a corner. So first quarter, first half for me on the Saints. The first half that I'm getting is -4.5. The first quarter is -3, and I'm moving on it. -4.5. All righty, Bebsy, what do you think of this total before we review our action and decide what we are going to do or finalize? The total here is at 51 or 50.5.
Yeah, a certain level of apprehension comes in with, like you said, the rookie quarterback on Monday night spotlight. I have no doubt in my mind that the Saints can put up points. It's Ken Herbert in the spotlight on the road. I don't know. It's why this is a no play game for me. There's just nothing overly enticing. The line's not enticing. The spread's not enticing. I like that you're jumping on it. I really respect it. I don't agree with you here. I don't think New Orleans should be given that many points, or rather the Chargers, but I just I'm not into this one, buddy.
I like this fading a rookie quarterback on a Monday nighter on the second week on the road. And what if I'm on the Saints and Anthony Lynn says, look, Tyrod Taylor's healthy. He's going back in.
I mean, then he's getting fired before the season ends. The fans will run him out of town. Unless Tyrod comes in and, throws for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, but we know that's not going to happen.
Alrighty, let's do a review of action here. And we start with the Thursday nighter. And I'm hesitant now to take this Buccaneers over 24.5 that I liked earlier. Buccaneers Bears, there was no move for you. And I need to think about this more. I don't want to. So this isn't going to be something that I bet tonight. Not with the total going down. So there's still no move for you on the Thursday nighter?
No interest at all.
Alrighty. Then we get to Panthers, Falcons, and you moved on the Panthers +3 at -118.
Yeah, I feel really good about the Panthers right now, and I feel really bad about the Falcons. So I'm on that, and I feel pretty good about that.
Oh, you're a good man, Bert. You're a great guy. I love having with you. Then Bills, Titans, we are both off, and understandably so. But, I mean, money's just going to pour in on the Bills, and at some point.
I mean, as soon as I get a chance, I think I'm in on the Bills, especially if that opens up as a Tennessee favorite.
Which it has. But it's not available at all books, so we will be in touch over the week about that. You moved on the Chiefs first half, and I forget what you got, so let me go back there. Sorry, Chiefs.
I think I had -7 first half.
Yes, I believe that is the case. No, you got way better than that. Oh, wait, sorry. Jesus, that line's wrong. Yeah, because you got the Bet365 -7 to -105, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't write it down. Let me just. For some reason, I didn't write it down. Chiefs -7 to -115. Excuse me. That's much better because the other books have -7.5. -7 to -115 at Bet365, and then I moved on the under 56 in Raiders Chiefs. Then we move on to Cardinals. Bebsy on the Cardinals first half. -3.5. And this was another spot where I jumped all over the Cardinals early. First quarter -2.5, first half -3.5 on the Cardinals to fight and to be angry and to come out fast. Then Bebsy moved on the Steelers full game -7.
Like it.
And there was 3 possible looks for me here. First half -4, full game -7. And Eagles team total under 16.5. I'm not going to take the Eagles team total under 16.5. Although I don't dislike it. But I am going to do a little double up here on the Steelers. First half -4, full game -7. Then Rams, Washington. I still have interest in Washington full game. But the 9's gone now to 7. I'll have to wait till public money comes in. So that's not going to be a move. we'll see if that 9 comes back. Then Bengals, Ravens. Bengals at plus 13. I have not been impressed with the Ravens. I would not be shocked if the Bengals could break a big play or two. And I just think that's too many points. You've taken the Ravens first half -7 and -105.
I like the Ravens being able to jump out in this game, and then, like you said, maybe opening the door for Burrow and co to get some points on the board. So that's why. Look, I bet on Baltimore first half last week. Again, liked the way they came out. They didn't cover their full game spread, but they covered first half. So I'm sticking with that again this week.
I'm taking the Bengals plus the points in this divisional battle. I think it's not a fluke that the Bengals put up 500 yards against a bad defense. But I don't see why Burrow couldn't keep this close because I've not been very impressed. In that Washington game, it was just the Ravens made the big plays. But again, Washington out-yarded these Ravens by 7. So I am going to make the move there. Then Texans first half -3 is a move that I made. I'm very curious to see what the Dolphins number is once it's available for me to bet. Very curious on what the Dolphins number is. There's question marks there. And then we have 2 very tricky games. At this point, I'm staying off. Colts, Browns, Giants, Cowboys. Then we have Broncos, Patriots, which is not available right now for me. But I think that the move is to bet the Broncos to have this. Again, if Cam is tested twice in 48 hours and doesn't have COVID, he's in the game. But it's unclear how long this will last. And my assumption here would be getting the Browns at plus 10 or 11, Cam Newton not available to play, and then buying back on the Patriots.
I'll say this. If Bob Kraft can get out of his charges when there's video evidence, he can get Cam back into that game.
I love that he got off on that, man. Good fight. Okay, so I'm going to take the Broncos plus once it's available. All right. And then we move on to the Vikings. Bebsy's on the team total over 23.5. This is Sunday Nighter. I'm doubling up on team totals. And I'm telling you that first half team total over 10.5 is not going to be available even when I wake up in the morning.
You might be right. You might be right.
And then I'm doubling up on the Saints early against the Chargers. I'm very excited about it.
I love your action as always, Jimmy.
Eckler, hamstring injury. Who knows he's going to be there? Alrighty. There you have it. Spectacular work, Bebsy. What fighting a good fight. Talking football for 2 hours and 43 minutes, my man.
We're getting out of control is what's happening. We've gone power hungry with this free range on this show.
I love it. Bebsy sitting at 17-6, hitting at 73.9% of 9.88 units, ROI 42.96%.
Fade Bebsy.
You're being very, very good. Congratulations on all your successes.
It runs out this week, buddy.
I don't believe it.
I fall apart.
You guys, we have no show without these great cappers in the chat. Justin Betts, West, Al Cervic, Dennis Garcia, Johnny K, Mr. Ghoster, Scott John, Cash Action Bets, Steel Curtain, Randy Brand, Viper NB, Bobby M. Bobby M says Backdoor Burrow should be his new name. I think he'd get made fun of.
Yeah, he's not going to love that name.
Jacksonville Zoe, Rafael Polanco, the Die Hard MMA podcast. We have Clint in the house. Dan Kelly says, after listening to the show, I will put $2 on the money line parlay, Jags, Eagles, Giants, Bold Spikes. Little $2 bet pays out $1,500. Mr. Fun Monk, Ron Walsek, all you guys, Ron P. I'm very, very excited. I think this is my palms are leaking. Let me just leave it at that. Ricardo Gutierrez, thank you. Coco Bongo, thank you. Maceo, my man, thank you. All right, Bebsy. I want you to stay hot, my man. Great work. I'll be in touch throughout the week. Let's get paid in full.
Much, my man. Let's get paid and fucking hell of a marathon tonight.
Yeah. All right, catch you guys. Thanks for watching. See you Sunday, 11 a.m.